I would like to call this workshop to order, and may we have a roll call, please? Oh, she can't hear you.
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Flores,
Present.
Mayor Moreno,
Here.
Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Commissioner Sacks,
Here.
Commissioner West,
Here.
Commissioner Wood.
Here.
Thank you. I've asked Commissioner Woodward to lead us in the invocation and the pledge. Please stand if you're able.
Before we begin our business at hand, let us give voice to our sincere gratitude to the divine for allowing us to reach this day with the abundant blessing that our great community has been bestowed. Let us pray that, with sacred guidance from the Almighty for our decision-making, we may continue to work for the betterment of all. Amen.
Amen.
Any additions, deletions, or substitutions?
Yes, Mayor. There's a special presentation going to be made, and that's an add-on. On page 2, 3B1 is an add-on requesting board direction. And then also under item 6, under board comments, Commissioner Flores will be bringing up the interim county administrator issue. That concludes the additions, deletions, and substitutions.
Thank you. May I have a motion to adopt? So moved. All in favor? All opposed? See, that motion carries 7-0. So Commissioner Flores, would you like to do the presentation? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Microphone is not complying here. First of all, I want to say thank you to our board for allowing this, because normally our protocols state that we recognize individuals and we do proclamations on the first meeting of the month. However, I've learned recently that Reverend Jones was going to be leaving us, and we recognized him at the CJC. But I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize you here amongst your peers. I wanted your family to be present. So I prepared a few words, and I know that you have family here. So if I can have your wife, Michelle Jones, come up, Noelia Olavarria, she's here, come on up, Kayla West, who's the daughter-in-law, Janessa West, granddaughter, Elena West, granddaughter, Alonso West, grandson, Brandon Jones, your son, and Barbara Chives, which is a family friend, and obviously our county administrator, Virginia Baker. So I prepared some remarks, and then I'll allow my fellow commissioner and county administrator to have a few words. Today we recognize an exceptional faith-based community leader, Reverend Kevin Jones, for his dedication and service to our community in Palm Beach County. Reverend Kevin L. Jones is a native of Rustburg, Virginia, and the youngest son of Dwight and Gladys Jones. He is married to Michelle T. Jones and the father of 3 sons, Nicholas, Brendan, Darren, and grandfather to 3 beautiful grandchildren. Reverend Jones completed his education at Campbell County School System and graduated with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Radford University in 1996. In 2007, he graduated from Palm Beach Atlantic University with a bachelor's of Arts degree in ministry, and in 2012 graduated with a Master of Divinity degree from the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. In 1997, Reverend Jones relocated to West Palm Beach, Florida, and has held several positions in nonprofit sector focusing on youth development, coordinator for community initiatives for the West Palm Beach Police Department, and coordinator of recruitment and partnerships with the for the Community Transformation Center at Palm Beach Atlantic University. Reverend Jones was the first clergy nominated to serve on the board of the Palm Beach County Criminal Justice Commission and serves as the immediate past chair. He is also the past co-chair of Peace, a congregational-based organization charged with the mission of fighting injustices in the communities of Palm Beach County. We appreciate your commitment and outstanding contributions to the constituents of Palm Beach County, and we wish you much happiness and good fortunes in your new journey. Thank you so much, Reverend Jones.
Reverend Jones, it is indeed an honor to get to say a few words to you and about you, especially in front of your family here, who I've known for years. When I originally got involved in politics, a couple years ago, wasn't even that long ago, but when I got started, people would tell me, "Oh, you need to meet Reverend Jones, the young pastor. You got to meet Reverend Jones. He's this young, vibrant, awesome pastor," and you were and still are, right? And it's exciting to see the work that you've done over the last almost 2 decades that I've known you, to see you do what you do in the community. And there's a saying that judge a tree by the fruit that it bears, not the fruit that it talks about. And not only your family here, but the people whose lives you've touched in the community. That's so important, through mentorship, through friendship, through pastorship, through relationship, the lives that you've touched. In my steps to success, number three is to find someone who is selfless as opposed to selfish to help you get to where you're going. And you have definitely fulfilled that role. Of course, I like to say that a life of service is a life that counts. And you have been of service, my friend. Your life continues to count. We are deeply saddened that you'll be leaving us here in Palm Beach County. Someone said to me last night, it's going to create a void that will be hard to fill. But we know that where you're going, God has sent you on another mission to continue to build lives. So with that, I thank you. You'll always be able to come home. We'll always welcome you with open arms, and we appreciate the work that you've done, and we offer you this special recognition in front of your amazing family who I've gotten a chance to know over the years. Thank you.
I won't tell all of our secrets. But Reverend Jones, I want to publicly thank you. You and I have been joined to the hip for a couple of decades now. You helped raise my daughter and all of the kids in our church. You were an inspiration to them because you were a young pastor and they could relate to you. They're all now graduated from college and moving on with their lives, and they still talk about you. Sunday was your last sermon at Tabernacle. I thought it was very gracious of Reverend Kistner to allow you to come preach for the last time to our youth. We're going to miss you greatly. But just let them know we're loaning you. We expect you to come back to Palm Beach County. We're going to work on that. And we're going to keep Michelle hostage along with all of the kids. And Brandon, congratulations on your recent graduation. He's also a kid that was raised with the rest of the children in Tabernacle. We appreciate you from the church. We also appreciate you from Criminal Justice Commission. When we were going through COVID, you were a rock. You brought the ministers in, you brought peace members in. We cannot thank you as a community enough for all that you've done for us. So we wish you well. We'll come check on you, make sure they're treating you fair. And we're gonna always want you to come back. So please do so. Michelle, we depend on you to take good care of him. So thank you. And grandkids, we look forward to keeping you here. And Brandon, you too. Thank you.
Good morning. To Madam Mayor, to all the commissioners, to Madam County Administrator, who I also call Deacon, and particularly to Commissioner Flores and Commissioner Powell. Good morning to everyone. Just really humbled and thankful for this opportunity to be honored, and just grateful for the opportunity to serve this wonderful county and this wonderful community that I love dearly and that I've been in now for 28 years. So just grateful for the work that is being done at the Criminal Justice Commission. I know it's in good hands, and they will continue to do such as we strive to have an fair and just and timely justice system and equitable justice system here in the community. And I hope that I contributed a small part in the work of the CJC. So I'm going back home, not to my hometown, but to Richmond, Virginia, to serve a church there. And my hope is to take all of the experiences that I was blessed to have here and apply them in Richmond, to my family, to my wife, my son, daughter-in-law, grandchildren. I love you all, and really my goal to serve is to be an example for those behind me as well. So we should always be willing to lend our talents and our wisdom to the community we love. But God bless you, Palm Beach County. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you all. Not usual to have a proclamation in the middle of the month, but when it's a special occasion like this, Reverend, good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Godspeed.
Thank you.
All right, we are going to move on to the regular agenda. We have several items on our regular agenda. 3A1, staff is recommending a motion to receive and file. May I get a motion for that, please?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion on 3A1 and 2 to approve.
Thank you. May I have a second? I have a second from Commissioner Woodward. All in favor? All opposed? See that motion carries 7-0. Now we're going to the add-on item, which is 3B. This is staff recommending a motion to approve. I have Commissioner Sachs's light on, followed by Commissioner Weiss. Commissioner Sachs, your light is on.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this 3B1 add-on?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'd like to take this after our agenda because I don't see any, I'd like to discuss it at that time if we can.
Well, this is where it is on the agenda right now.
Oh, it's right in the very beginning. Okay, well, I don't see any reason to go into this issue. I am researching whether we did this at our initial meetings. I don't see anything here in this add-on that would permit this. I also don't see any necessity that has been added to this 3B1 to require us to do this. And so let me say for the record what it is, so everybody knows. It's basically that we would be requiring to have a interim administrator position for
No,
county administrator.
That's not
Is that what we're talking about?
No, 3B1 is, the task force has brought a recommendation to us. That's what this 3B1 is.
Okay, so I have the wrong 3B1. Could you state for the record what you're referring to for 3B1?
3B1 is an amendment that the task force has asked to request extending the interview from 20 minutes to a maximum of 45 minutes. They have 6 applicants that they like to move forward. We've asked them to move forward 5. I think I might save everybody the discussion and say, I don't see where we need to ask our task force to spend all this time just to weed out one applicant. I think the task force has done their job, and I believe that if there's something that our human resources director can do about moving this forward, I think we should just take the 6 applicants and let the board decide on those, as opposed to having the task force cut one person, and they've invested their time. I don't think they need to do any more, but that is my opinion, my humble opinion, and I know Commissioner Weiss and Vice Mayor Baxter have their lights on, so.
If I could,
Sure.
I've got my light on. Then, if this is 3B, I do not see a letter from the foreman or chairperson of the task force. And maybe I'm missing something here, but is there a request from the foreperson of the task force?
That's what the add-on is for. This was given.
This was a letter
This
that
was given
from-
to the HR director who has brought it forward to
Okay,
administration.
so do I have a letter from the foreperson? And I guess I'm going to look at Dr. Khan. Is there a letter from the foreperson requesting something?
This request, there's not a letter. This request came from the task force meeting last week, and the task force asked me to come before you and make these requests.
Okay, may I? Thank you. Dr. Khan, this came from the task force.
Yes.
And they want to have a change in their procedure and policy. Is there a letter from the foreperson of the task force requesting this change in procedure?
No, ma'am, this was a verbal request from the task force.
Okay, is there any reason why this cannot be put into an email so that it's part of the public and part of my my documentation here as a county commissioner, as well as to my colleagues?
The request was made at a public meeting, so, and
Good, that's good, yeah.
This was
No,
all-
I'm just asking.
this was also in my email update that I sent to all of you on Friday.
That's good, I get it from you. But I'm looking for a letter from the chairperson of the task force requesting a change in policy.
They asked me to come, and they asked me to bring this question to you today in
Okay,
preparation
if
for
I may.
Friday's interviews.
Mayor, I am requesting and I think I don't find it, in fact, maybe he's here. I'm just looking for a request in writing from the person who has been chosen to be the head of the task force to ask for a change in policy. We do not have that today.
That's correct.
Okay. I would request that maybe before the end of today's meeting, we could have that. I don't think this is an unusual request. I don't think that it is something that is out of ordinary. I would just like to follow the procedure. He is chosen as the task force chairperson. If I could just have that letter before the end of the meeting, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. And that's my request.
Well,
Thank
let's
you, Mayor.
continue with the discussion. Commissioner Weiss?
Thank you, Mayor. So I have no problem on item A in extending their interview time to 45 minutes. I think that would be, since there is only 6, originally we didn't know how many potential applicants they would be interviewing. I think it's an opportunity as well for the public to hear these candidates. So I'd like to, as much as the public can hear them, I think it's good for the process. So I will be supporting that. As it relates to item B, I think they should be able to cut one person out and get us to 5. I don't think that's asking too much. So I would approve item A, and I will not be supporting item B.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, staff, for bringing this to us. I agree with the mayor. So with 6 people left, I really don't see even why the task force, I mean, we're asking them to go through they want 45-minute interviews of 6 people to eliminate 1 person. That seems like a huge waste of time and a very inefficient process. I think when we originally set this process in place, it was very well thought out, and we did the best with the information we had at the time. Unfortunately, we're in a situation now where I have heard that Virginia Baker, our administrator, is no longer willing to stay past May 31st. So it does put us in needing interim, which we will discuss later today. But I think it makes it more prudent to have a faster maybe process now that we know what we're dealing with. And what I mean by faster is, why would we put these 6 applicants through interviews with the task force to then just come to us and do the interview again? That seems redundant and a huge waste of time for a lot of people. And so I would like to see if so with this, as it's laid out, they're asking if we would allow 6. I think we should allow 6 to come to us, but I think we should remove the requirement then of them to do the interview. Why not just come to us? Why make them do it twice? I can't come up with a good reason for that. So I would like to hear what my fellow commissioners have to say potentially about that. And then once it comes to us, we can set the time. So I don't mind them bringing us 6. I don't mind that interview process being in the public for everyone to see in full transparency. And we are ultimately making the decision. But to have them waste, again, 6 applicants at 45 minutes apiece all in one day to eliminate 1 person to then come to us, that isn't efficient. And it isn't a good process, and that's not a good look for government. So I would like to hear what everyone else has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The original intent of the task force was to be able to get down to 5 candidates. The task force has thus asked for the allowance of 6. The dilemma that I'm having is, with the request to move 6 forward and the request to do 45-minute interviews, may seem a little bit redundant, like Vice Mayor Baxter has indicated, but I don't want to jeopardize the process of taking away the opportunity for candidates to speak in public. However, if there were a way that we allow these interviews, if they wanted to do them for 45 minutes, for each candidate to be sequestered, or so the candidates don't have the opportunity to hear the responses to each other's interview, if there were a way to accomplish that, I think it would be worthwhile. But barring, I don't know if we broadcast it publicly and it's, candidate 1 gets to hear what candidate 2 says, or candidate 6 has watched all of the interviews, I believe it gives that candidate an advantage. If there's a way to make it fair, to move forward, to do those interviews in a process that makes it fair, then I would be in favor of the interviews. If there's no way to do that, and they still want to move forward with 6, it gives us the dilemma of, we're moving forward with 6, but allowing them to do interviews what is the intent of the interview at this point by the task force?
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. Just to respond to that portion of the question, Commissioner Powell, it's not legally permissible to have the candidates excluded in any way, or even a suggestion of them excluding themselves. It's not permissible under Sunshine Law.
Was there a way?
Can you
follow
explain?
up?
I'm sorry. I don't understand that response. They don't, I don't understand that response for a couple reasons. We've done, several of us have done interviews where it was an individual interview. The other people that were being interviewed were not part of the process. At any point in time after, they can watch it, so there would be transparency, but to have everyone in the room at the same time gives an unfair advantage to the last person that's going.
That is the Sunshine Law, Mayor.
I disagree. Sorry, I'm disagreeing with you, and that's very rare, but I'm disagreeing with you on this one.
I can provide you the legal authority.
Please.
In that case, would it be best, and this is a question amongst the board, would it be best to allow the interviews where everyone could see each other's interview and do it in a random fact where we don't know who goes first, who goes last, or would it be best, and this is a board question, we need to consider, should we, if we're going to move forward with 6, the intent was to get to 5. If they've gotten to 6 and they've said this is what we whittled it down to, the intent of the interview was to whittle it down. My concern would be the board may have, at this point, already met its intent. That's the dilemma that I'm having. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, team, for all the work that you put on, you've done so far to get us to this point. So yesterday we sat down, we talked about this, and I am in agreement with extending. I didn't realize that when we passed the resolution that we were limiting it to 20 minutes. I thought we were giving that selection committee the authority to sort of decide how they were going to do that interview. But I am in agreement with extending the time, even beyond 45 minutes to an hour. It doesn't really matter. And when it comes down to item B, the 6, absolutely. But then I heard the mayor's comments, I heard vice mayor's comments, and it doesn't make sense as I'm sitting here for them to go back and interview 6 candidates. Some of them, I'm assuming, are from outside of the county, so they're going to have to take time off, travel time, come down here, interview, go back home, for them to come back before us to interview one more time. And ultimately, the decision falls on this board. So I would be in favor of removing that second or that layer of having them interview and just have them, their next interview or the interview be before us. Obviously with the process that we already set in place where they meet with us privately, they get to go out into the community and perhaps do some community forums so that, you know, we can see them also interact with the community. So I would be, I know that's not what you're asking us here today, but if we're going to approve to go to 6, what is the point of having them whittle it down or even come back with a recommendation of 6? And just, I think they should just come before us to do that interview and go through that process. So all 6 would be, I would be in favor of all 6 be invited to continue on with the process without having it go back to the selection committee. So I'm just sharing my opinions here just because I feel like it's redundant. You're gonna create an issue where these people are gonna have to travel in town on a Friday to then come back in a couple of weeks. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. A couple things. Number one is our request to the task force was no more than 5. So if they can whittle it down to 2 or 3, I think it's a valuable use of their time. At this point, nobody has talked to any of these candidates. All that they've seen is what's written on paper. There is an opportunity, I think, you know, how somebody appears on paper versus how they appear in a interview is very different. So I would like to have them have that opportunity, because if they can whittle it down, even better, because that's what we'd asked them to do. As it relates to my colleague's question in trying to create fairness, I had that same concern as well. Spoke to legal counsel. I think the most fair way to do that would be to provide the questions in advance, since they all have to be asked the same questions in public. We could prepare that list of questions so they would all have same amount of time to review those questions and respond, although some would have the advantage of hearing how their competitors responded. I would think that that's the way we're going to get it the most fair as well. So, thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Baxter.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple questions for Mr. Adi. So, Sunshine Law. Is it your opinion that we are allowed to meet with them individually?
Yes, Vice Mayor, you can meet with them individually.
And so, are they themselves bound by Sunshine?
The Sunshine gets implicated once it's more than one board member. So if it's just individual meetings, them meeting with you one-on-one doesn't implicate Sunshine.
So then why are we able to meet with them individually, let's say in our offices, but we couldn't have them maybe stay in a conference room and have, you know, where one comes down at a time if we wanted to do a public interview process and speak with them in public, and it is there for everyone to see and even available to them after the fact?
So what the Sunshine Law makes abundantly clear is if they wish to be in the room, they can't be prevented from being in the room. They have access as a member of the public just like anyone else. So once those interviews are being conducted, if a candidate wishes to come in, they're free to do so. But also, what the Sunshine Law also has made clear is that any suggestion by the board that they should not, or it would be the professional thing to do by standing outside and not watching the interview, violates the Sunshine.
I will disagree with that part of it, but I will, let's say we're going with that thought process. So if the board, if the applicants I've been on several job interviews in my life, right? I've never expected to be in a room. I don't think there's a reasonable expectation that you can be in the room and listen to somebody else's interview while that takes place, okay? And so I don't see how this, the purpose of Sunshine is to protect the public, right? And to protect them and allow them for a fully transparent process. So I can't really agree with what you're saying as it relates to the individuals, because the entire public will be able to hear it. What we were suggesting was potentially so there was no advantage to one applicant or another. But we'll move on from that. So we'll have individual, I guess the process to what Commissioner Flores was talking about, individual interviews, and they'll be able to go out in the public and answer questions potentially at a forum.
I don't know that that's a part of the plan, but if that's something the board wishes to arrange.
Is that the current process now?
Yes, we are working on that community involvement that was brought by the board.
And what does that community involvement currently looking like?
We are planning that right now. It's temporarily slated to be the day before, on June 16th, the day before the interview, so they're not coming into town an extra time. And we're in the planning phases, and I'll bring that to you before we.
So if we eliminate the need for the task force interview, if we allow 6, if we do that today as a board, is there any reason that we would have to wait until the 16th?
Those dates are based on the plan that was approved by the board. So if the board changes those dates, then we will change accordingly.
So again, because when I had spoken about this, I was under the understanding that we would be able to keep our administrator for a couple more weeks, and now that is no longer the case. So I would like to, now that the task force has narrowed it down to 6, the next step in the process would be individual, which makes the most sense, individual interviews, and then potentially a forum, right?
That's how the current plan reads.
But that date isn't necessarily set. We didn't set a date for that forum, did we?
You did not set a date for the forum, you set a date for the interview on the 17th, and for June 3rd, when these candidates will be brought to you by the task force. We were looking at the 16th so that we were saving these candidates a trip, so they weren't coming in town 3 times for the one-on-one, then the community event, and then the public interview.
So they would have been in town already on the 3rd?
They won't be in town on the 3rd.
What day will they be in town?
They would be in town whenever the one-on-ones are scheduled, and then they would be in town the 16th and 17th for the community event and the interview with you.
And for them to only come in town once, I would like to hear what my board has to say. If June 3rd's our meeting, how would you guys feel about June 2nd, which is the day before, doing those individual interviews and having potentially a forum that night so people who work could participate? So that's what I would like to see happen, and then maybe bring it to us on the 3rd to make a decision.
Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with having the task force, having done the interviews. If we had a larger pool of candidates, I think we were expecting more candidates. So I think it would have been beneficial to have that, but with only 6, I agree that it seems redundant. So if we do skip this, I'm curious on the process, because we each do an individual interview with you or an attorney present with us. Like that is part of the sunshine, even though we're individual. So we would need time to sit with you to get our questions ready, because we have to ask the same questions to each interviewee on our individual days. And I believe yesterday I got a notification to have June 12th ready for individual interviews. So now if we skip the task force, are you requesting that we move that date?
The individual interviews till June 2nd.
Okay.
The day before, we would, and then have them bring us on June 3rd. We would then.
And then we would have
that
June
decision.
3rd be the public interviews with this board on the BCC day?
I don't think we have public, sorry.
Aren't we doing part of the process too, where each candidate is interviewed by us as a whole?
How
Do we
about we do
currently
this?
public interviews scheduled for us? I don't think so, do we? Okay, so then,
That was the 17th, right?
yeah, that would be the 3rd.
All right, hold on. Would you please tell us what the process is if we continue along the process as we voted on?
Yes.
Can you give us the dates, the recommendations, the requirements, the timeframes, and all of that? Because I think the board would be better versed if we knew exactly what the process going forward would be if we did just what we said we were going to do.
Yes, so based on the current plan, the task force would be conducting interviews on Friday. At that time, they would be deciding on. the
Friday,
top-
as in this
as in
Friday?
As this Friday, the
23rd.
23rd. They would be narrowing it down from between 3 and 5 candidates. Those candidates would be brought to this board by the task force on June 3rd at your next commission meeting. If those candidates are approved by this board, then on June 12th, those candidates would be coming back for one-on-one interviews. Then they would be coming back on the 16th, where we would do the community event, and then we were looking at night to do that, or after hours, so people would be available from the public. And then on the 17th, there would be a full day of interview. At the conclusion of that, this board would be making a decision on who the next county administrator would be, or throwing out the process and going to a recruiter based on how the plan is written.
So we still, even if we skip the task force, we still have to account for a day of individual interviews for all of us an evening event for the community outreach, and then a full day of interviews with all 7 of us and the candidates.
That is the plan in place right now.
Okay, so I don't think that that's for a BCC day. I mean, we have proclamations on the 3rd, and that's an agenda day. We would need a full day just for that, right?
Well, on the 3rd, you're just deciding whether to accept
If we were
those
to
names.
change to what the vice mayor was suggesting, that we move it up to the 2nd and 3rd, if we do it on the 3rd, that's an agenda BCC day. Does that give us sufficient time to do both?
How many, because I'm not looking at my calendar, do we have June 3rd and June, what are our BCC days in June?
June 3rd is the first
June
one, and
3rd
then
and
June
10th.
17th is the
Right,
next
so
one.
the 10th is not a
Correct.
BCC day, right?
No, the June 10th is a BCC day. June 17th is a workshop.
And the 17th was supposed to be the day we did the interviews. Yeah, so, I mean, I still like the idea of not making them interview for 6, that seems silly. But to Commissioner Woodward's point, I do understand we have a full agenda on June 3rd.
And matters by the public is also on June 3rd.
And matters by the public. We could always pick a date as a board, too, sooner. We don't have to wait until June 17th or BCC day. So if everyone picks a day sooner, whether it's the 4th, 5th, whatever, the 10th, I mean, we have that flexibility as a board.
I'm open to another day, but I do think it should be a day just for that, not with other BCC
Agreed.
matters. And we still have to have a day for us to do our individual interviews as well.
Correct.
So,
Okay.
Administrator Baker, you put your line on?
I was going to suggest that it doesn't have to be a regular scheduled meeting, as the vice mayor said. You can choose any day, we make the appropriate advertisement, and you can set that date for just interviews.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks.
Thank you. Let's keep this simple. You all don't make policy. We make the policy because we represent the people. Okay? We have made this policy. You don't need to keep coming back to us. And I resent the fact that anybody says that I have to ask certain questions and we all have to ask the same questions. You have 1.5 million people here, and they have different questions for the person who's going to lead 9,000 employees. We make the policy. And the policy is that there is, number one, there is a task force that each one of us have chosen certain people on that task force. And the people on that task force have chosen a 4-person. I have yet to see a letter from a 4-person saying what you have just said. Sir, I respect you, but we make the policy, not you. Policy has been made. There is a 4-person chosen. Now you're telling me that he verbally told you that he wants to do certain changes. I have not seen it. And I think our emails work. Secondly, Sunshine Law applies to every board. I have the rules of Sunshine. I've read them over and over before I sat here. It applies to every board that our public sit on. And Sunshine applies to that board. That is a very important task force board. And Sunshine applies to them. I don't need to cite it because we have a very fine lawyer who has already, if somebody wants it, I'll be more than cite it, but I'm not the attorney for the board. We have one, he's given an opinion. So whether they want 5 or 7, we're not changing dates. This board has already made these dates. This is a matter of policy. And God bless our county administrator. She's given us a date that she's leaving. We should respect that and get on to the business of getting a county administrator. We've got things to do in this county. We have issues. We don't need to muddle up and whether we need to have this or have that. Let's get on to the business of the county administration. And that is, we have chosen these dates. We will abide by these dates that all of us agreed to. There is sunshine that applies to that task force. We must follow the policy of the Board of County Commissioners, that we have given the authority to a particular board, as we do to many boards. And I'm hearing on emails from people who have been on boards. So let's move on, and let's not muddy the waters over and over. He told me that, no. What is its task force needs, we will deal with it. We've already decided on the dates, and let's move on, get a county administrator. I always say county commissioner because she sits up here with us. But let's not put more pressure on Ms. Baker. Let her get on with her retirement. We have the dates. They have been decided by the board. And sir, let's move on. And at the end of this meeting, by the end of this meeting, I'm going to give you an opportunity, Dr. Khan, to get us those on email request from the task force who comes to us. Okay, comes to us. We're the Board of County Commissioners. Okay, and I also have requested yesterday an item from you. I've yet to receive it. So let's get moving here. We got a lot of work to do. Let's get on with the business of the board. Let's abide by the policy of this board. It has already been expressed by my colleagues, and let's not muddy the waters. Let's move on. Thank you, Mayor.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I digest all things that just happened and all things considered, you know what? We all have selected a member of the task force, and we selected an alternative. And the task force has come back to us with a request. And I think that the persons who we all chose, we trust them to do right. And as we think about it, if you do a cost benefits analysis, we are indicating that maybe it's redundant to perform the additional interview. Maybe it is. However, if the task force believes that they would like the opportunity to interview members and we've allocated that opportunity, maybe it does not hurt to move forward with the interview. It can only help. Elongating the time, I don't believe that's a challenge. I believe that, like Commissioner Flores had indicated, that we tried to give deference to the task force. The challenge we have is to make sure that the process is fair and open. I do believe that if we allow for the interviews, although it's still in the sunshine, it's still open. It gives an opportunity for the public to hear the candidates, and it also gives the opportunity for the public to recognize something that cannot be calculated. And what cannot be calculated sometimes is a simple word: authenticity. You can see who's authentic. I don't think it hurts if we have this additional interview and we allow the task force to do that. I think it's in our best interest, as we've discussed it amongst the board, to do everything in our power and everything possible to make sure that each candidate has an equal and fair opportunity to be the next county administrator. How do we get there? We've outlined a process. The process is what it is. We've indicated that the task force is now asking to move forward with 6 candidates. The question was, if they do move forward with the 6 candidates, is the purpose and intent of the interview still to whittle it down? I believe from the conversation or discussion that you've indicated, Mr. Khan or Dr. Khan, would be that they want to move forward with 6 candidates, and they still would like to have 45 minutes for an interview. If that is the case, and the board agrees, if those interviews are in public, we still have the opportunity to see how authentic members are. But again, it's up to the board, because the reality is the goal was to get down to, as Commissioner Weiss indicated, somewhere between 3 and 5. If that's not going to happen and they want to move forward with 6, the only purpose, I believe, for the additional interview would be to keep everything open in the public and for candidates to have the opportunity to be seen by the task force and the public, and I have no problem with that. With that, I'll end my comments. I'm not going to close, because when you close, it's what you do in the legislature, and I'm not in the legislature. Back to you, Madam Mayor.
You sure? It's okay if I go now?
You got it.
Okay. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the desire that it wouldn't be harmful to have the task force do this again, but again, if they are asking us, and Dr. Khan, I did manage to watch this over the weekend, and it was a public meeting. They made the request to you to bring this to us. I don't need that in writing. That was a public discussion. It was a board direction, and the board itself discussed that, asking us for this. And the two things they asked for were the time, which I don't have a problem with extending the time. But if they are asking to bring us 6 candidates, and they have 6 candidates, I don't see the purpose of having this production of another task force interview just to send us the same 6 people. So again, if that's their request to send us 6, and they have 6, I just don't see the need of us duplicating this. And it does feel like we're duplicating.
Just to clarify, they said up to 6. They're not saying they necessarily want to send all 6 to the board. They just want the option if all 6 interviews were to go really well, that they could send up to 6, but
again, we, as I understood the formation of the task force, it was for them to go through different levels of the process, and each time narrowing down the field to send us what they have determined as their best choices, or their based on where they are in the process. If they are asking for 6, up to 6, and they have 6, and we're not going to put a requirement for them to narrow it down any further, I don't see the point of doing the interviews. If we wanted to put a requirement for them to narrow it to 3 or 4 at this point, cut it in half, or remove a few. Otherwise, doing interviews for the sake of doing public interviews, that should fall on us, in my opinion. So,
Attorney Kaufman.
I apologize for jumping in here. I just wanted to ask a question, if the mayor would not mind. Am I correct that the task force wanted to interview 6 instead of 5?
no, the task force narrowed the pool down to 6.
Right.
And
The
per the plan
permission-
and the directives given to them, they were to interview after they reviewed resumes before bringing that recommendation to this board.
Okay, so they are asking permission to bring 6 candidates to the board?
Up to 6, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Per the plan that was approved, they were asked to interview up to 10, and then narrow that down to bring to the board for up to 5.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Commissioner Woodward. I don't know. And on these individual issues, I do have a question for the county attorney, because there seems to be some agreement and disagreement on different issues. How would you like us to handle these? Would you like a motion? Would you like the each
Oh, we need to have a
individual-
motion and a vote on these, because it's unclear at this point. And this is an agenda item.
I believe, unless I'm counting wrong, there were 5 of us that agreed that I think the redundancy of having the task force interview 6 people, just to send us potentially 6 people, is redundant, and I don't want to see people travel or spend money unnecessarily to come in for that, to then leave come back again. That's not fair to that, even if it's not harmful. It could be harmful. In a way, I guess that could be harmful because you're making them spend money unnecessarily. So taking this, I guess, one kind of issue at a time, let's see where everyone stands. I would like to make the motion to remove the requirement of the task force to do individuals and allow them to send us all 6, which I guess would be kind of amendment of 3B1.
just deleting A.
And deleting
I
A.
have a motion from Commissioner Baxter, Vice Mayor Baxter, and I have a second from Commissioner Woodward. The motion would be to just move forward 6 individuals and remove the interview process.
Remove the task force interview process, and it comes straight to us to interview.
So I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Sacks and Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So let me just understand. So in other words, rather than have the task force interview the last 6, they would just send the 6 to us.
Correct.
And what is the purpose of this?
Eliminating them needing to come through 2 interview processes and travel twice and book 2 sets of planes and hotels and coming into town. Just
Is Zoom a possibility?
It is. Zoom is always a possibility, but I think you get a lot more from somebody in person, body language. I personally,
Okay,
as a board, wouldn't want to.
So in other words, they just picked 6, which they already have.
Yep.
Send them to us.
Let us decide.
Let's move it. Let's do it. I absolutely agree with you, Vice Mayor. Let's get it done. Thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Powell, your light is on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I just would reiterate the point. I think that's a great idea, Vice Mayor. However, the only challenge I have to that is giving the opportunity to the public to interface with the candidates one more time is the only opposition I have to that. I understand that it makes sense to move forward with the 6.
May I? We're not eliminating the ability for them to do a public meeting in the community or the forum, just the interview with the task force.
Oh, I understand.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. However, to change the process so that we eliminate that last interview, which by extending the opportunity to do 6 candidates also changes the process. However, as a planner, our code of ethics, the number one goal of a planner is to serve the public interest. And at no point am I moving forward in a way, and this, if we vote for this and I vote against it, doesn't mean that I'm totally against the idea. It's just the possibility for the public to interface just one additional time is the challenge that I have. So, it's a great idea, trust me. But what I'm going to say is I would not be in support of that particular motion based on the idea that I think the public, every opportunity that we should have for the public to interface with the next county administrator should be given. And that's the only reason why I would be against that motion. Other than that, I could live with the motion, but I want to make sure that we have a process that is open, fair, and to the public that gives every opportunity. Do I wish in a perfect world that we had the opportunity to put each candidate in a position where they were isolated to not hear each other's questions? Yes, that would be the ideal world. However, that unfortunately is not the process. So with that, that's the only reason that I would disagree or not be in favor of that particular motion. Doesn't mean that I don't support the concept of the board, because I want to make sure that we have the best opportunity for the best candidate moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you for the comments that my colleague has mentioned. I agree with that as well. I mean, I'm sure it's no surprise to any of you that I think it's important. I think that's what we promised the public we were going to do, and we owe it to them to deliver that. I don't see any reason. There's no reason not to do it. And I'm sorry if somebody can't travel, they can do it by Zoom. But this is a position to oversee a government of over 6,000 employees, a $9 billion budget, and if you can't do 2 interviews, then I think that speaks a lot about, where you come down on this. I do believe we owe it to the public to put them in front of them as much as we can. And I think by not doing that, we are doing a disservice. and I will not be supporting that.
Dr. Khan, question for you. When the task force wants to do their interview, which would be this Friday, is, other than the public witnessing the questions, do they have the opportunity to ask questions?
No.
So it's really, that really is not a public process then. That is the process of the task force, is asking the questions. It's just giving the public an opportunity to see the answers, as opposed to on the night of the 16th, where there is a community event where the candidates could talk with the public. That would be actually the only time the candidates will interact with the public other than the 7 members of the task force.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Mayor, you bring up a very good point. The public will have an opportunity to ask questions of these applicants through us. I have already received questions from the public for an applicant, and I look for, this is what we do. This is us. We represent the people. So, yes, I think that, to Commissioner Powell's point, and to Vice Mayor, I think we can reach a compromise here. I like to move it more forward, but I want as much exposure to the public as possible, because this county administrator is not serving us. She or he is going to be serving the public. With permitting and engineering and planning, so much involved. So, one, I think we need to move it forward, as Vice Mayor said, but very importantly, as Commissioner Powell said, we need to make as much exposure to the public as possible. And I'm getting questions from the public. So if anybody says, can the public ask questions? Yes. Tell your commissioners what questions you want to ask of the person who will deal with your pool fence that's not in code, that will take care of your roof permitting, that would take care of the education of your kids. So absolutely, I think that we can reach a compromise. I like both of your suggestions. We need somebody to take it home.
Okay,
you,
so we
Mayor.
have a motion and a second. All those in favor of not having the interview process by the task force, moving the 6 names forward, and then we're deleting A, going with B, as the Vice Mayor has already read into the record. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Nay. Let the record show 5 yeas, 2 nays. So the motion carries. Now, the second thing we need to discuss is, do we change the timing, or do we just leave the timing alone? We know we're going to need an interim anyway, so whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks for an interim, I think we leave the timing as we had set in our policy. If that is amenable with the board, I think we move on. So we're just taking the task force interviews off the table for Friday. We know what we know who the 6 candidates are. Dr. Khan, you've done that for us. On June 12th, we will do the one-on-one interviews. We'll do an event on the 16th, and we will decide on the 17th. Is that how it reads for the record?
And I will formally present those 6 names at the June 3rd meeting.
Okay, now I apologize, I didn't see whose lights went on first, so Commissioner Powell.
Hey, Madam Mayor, thank you for indulging me. So the question would be, with regard to moving the time frame, if we were to expedite the time frame a little bit forward, in essence, would we need an interim, as the administrator would be leaving, but in the meantime, it would be as if she took a vacation, and if it's only 2 weeks or so, wouldn't the deputy kind of just keep the wheels in motion until there's a new administrator? Actually, maybe that's a question for you. Maybe it's a question for the administrator. I don't know the answer to that. Wouldn't it if it's less than a certain amount of time, do we need an interim, or would the deputy take over?
Commissioner Flores. I was going to ask Administrator Baker to answer, but go ahead, Commissioner Flores.
Well, I guess what I want to opine is that we had agreed that if the person was applying, we weren't going to ask them to be the interim. We discussed that at this board, and I think we all agreed. And secondly, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. So I feel that it's in the best interest that we do pick an interim. If we need it, we have the interim, and if we don't, then we don't need the interim to act as interim once we hire that person. So that's my 2 cents on that opinion. But the deputy administrator is an applicant, so we had agreed that that person wouldn't be acting as interim, and essentially that's what they would be doing after June 1st.
Commissioner Powell.
Madam Mayor, point of clarity, I think we discussed that, but I don't believe we ever agreed upon that particular motion that if someone were applying, they wouldn't be allowed to be the interim. Is there a way we can clarify that? Because I don't believe that was something that I agreed to.
I believe the sense of the board was that whoever was in the running would not be interim. I believe that was a feeling of the board, yes. Whether we voted on that or not, I think the sentiment was there from most of us that whoever was in the running would not be interim. And I think that's why later on in the agenda, we have the choices of who we could pick as an interim. So whether we have it puts us in the position of we need an interim anyway, whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks or 6 weeks. We can just leave the process as it is, and that interim would serve for whatever amount of time until we were actually able to seat the new administrator.
Madam Mayor, follow up?
Sure.
I know you said whether we voted on it or not, that was the sentiment. I don't believe that was something that I agreed to, and I would have liked to have voted on that. Is there a way we can pull the record, or is there something in writing that would show that was the intent? Because I don't think that was something I agreed to.
Well, I guess easy enough. It's, we would all have to choose. So we could, if you want to make a motion, make the motion and see if it fails or passes. Actually, let's let Commissioner Powell.
Absolutely. Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think you're absolutely correct. I think what we need to do is clarify that. There's a number of things that we all voted on and discussed, and I think those are the issues that must rule our judgment today. We have, if I'm not mistaken, I have 6 resumes of six applicants, candidates, who were chosen or selected to be interviewed. Today is May 20th. Let's move on. We don't need an interim if we are ready to go forward with the interviews. But I second what Commissioner Powell has talked about, because I'd like to see what we voted on and what the rules of this selection process is. So I second that motion. Mayor, we may want to take a vote on that, depending on who made the motion.
We have some lights on. So, Vice Mayor Baxter.
I'm sorry. The motion, Commissioner?
Commissioner Powell hasn't actually
Go ahead.
formulated a motion. And if Commissioner Powell would like to formulate a motion, and you want a second, we'll do that. But the Vice Mayor does have her light on, so then we will continue
He did say that he wants to see what we voted on, and I think that's fair, because we don't have that in front of us, and I think it's important. So I absolutely agree that we need to know what we voted on originally, and let that be the litmus test for how we proceed rather than we're making this stuff up as we go along.
Well, we seem to do that every meeting
approve of
anyway,
that.
so.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Commissioner Powell. I second that motion.
Ms. Kaufman, do we legally need an interim between the period of May 31st and June 17th?
I believe that you do. There are certain things that only the county administrator can do.
Mayor?
I support not having an interim candidate that is in the selection to be or an interim administrator, somebody who is in the selection process who has applied for the job of being our administrator. I do not want any of them to be our interim. I want it to be a fair process to everyone involved. So I support, what has been said as far as not having that. If the board wants, it's on here, it's an add-on, right? We're going to vote on potentially who we would want that interim to be, should we need it, should no timelines get moved. And the only way we wouldn't need an interim is if we wrapped up this process by May 31st, because then there would be no gap. That would be up to the applicant. So again, that's where I stand, but I do understand what you're saying. I just want it to be more fair and transparent and open to everyone. And I think a more transparent and fair process is not having somebody who's applied be the interim administrator.
Administrator Baker. Your light is on. Your light is off. Okay. Commissioner Flores.
Yeah, I understand the thought of just letting the deputy administrator continue to sort of steer the ship for a small amount of time. However, I think it would be reckless of this board to choose not to name an interim, knowing that we don't have a county administrator. As the attorney has just mentioned, there are certain things that the administrator can do and cannot do. And God forbid we have any emergencies during that time, there's certain powers that's bestowed to the administrator that we wouldn't have an interim placed. It makes me feel very uncomfortable with that situation. As I mentioned earlier, if we don't need it because we hired someone, then we don't need it. But because we make the decision on June 17th, it doesn't mean that person will actually start on June 17th. There must be negotiations, contract, and a few other things that could be advanced fairly quickly. However, that process still needs to happen. They're not going to leave here June 17th being named county administrator, and on June 18th they start. There has to be different things that will have to be sorted out. So that person may actually not start until July 1st. And I don't know what the correct date will be, because it depends on the person that we choose.
And the contract.
And the contract, correct. If we choose somebody that has to give 30 days from the 18th is July 18th. If we choose somebody that has to give 2 weeks, we're talking beginning of July. So I just want to make sure that we do this with the best interest of the county, and making sure that that we do have someone that has that power and authority to act if there is any emergencies, because usually that's when there's additional duties that the administrator will have. So I just want to make sure that we contemplate that, and that's why it's so important to name an interim.
Commissioner, do you want to make a substitute motion?
Was there ever a motion?
Yes. Did you make one?
Commissioner Powell.
Okay, so it was never articulated?
No, I think,
No, he just wants to know the
Wait.
dates.
No.
And what we said on those dates.
Commissioner Powell made the motion that we wait until we know what was on the record. Isn't that what the motion you made? Yes. Okay, and it was seconded by Commissioner Sacks. So, Vice Mayor, if you would like to offer a substitute motion. Just to get the process going.
I don't think I need to make a motion that we choose an interim today, because it's already on the agenda. And so I guess at this point, I think the most obvious choice is one of the assistant administrators who have not applied for the job. And who does that leave? That leaves
Tammy Field,
Tammy
Reggie
Fields,
Duran, Todd Von Laren.
Reggie Duran, and Todd Von Laren. I will make the motion that Todd Von Laren be the interim county administrator, and we'll see how this goes.
Third. Fourth. Let's take a vote.
Point of order.
Okay.
Are we reordering the agenda?
So we, in essence, just reordered the agenda.
That was later in the agenda. Do we need to vote to reorder the agenda?
May I have a motion to reorder the agenda?
We just made a motion, so.
It was, but it wasn't voted on. It was, so it wasn't voted on. So let's
Call the
be,
question.
let's,
Let's call the question.
I'm sorry. Please, Commissioner Sacks, the attorney, please.
I just said the board has just basically done a motion to reorder the agenda by consent.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the table to make Todd Von Laren the interim administrator. We have no idea how long that will be, but Mr. Von Laren, you're here. Anybody have any more questions? Commissioner Powell, your light is still on?
Yes, it was turned back on at one point. I turned it off and turned it back on.
I need 4 eyes. Here, here, and here.
No comment. Madam Mayor, here's the challenge. In this process, I don't believe that we ever came to a conclusion that an individual who applied for the position would not be allowed to be the interim. I never consented to that or agreed to that. If I did, I know I didn't, so let's just be clear, I didn't agree to that. However, to get to the point where we're down to 6 candidates and to now say that this is what we want to do has given the opportunity, a missed opportunity for the individuals who applied. Because had they known at the beginning, maybe, I'm not saying they would not have, but maybe they wouldn't have. That's a challenge for me. I think it's, you know, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. So I'll be, of course, voting against that motion, of course, because I believe that individuals who applied should not be allowed to be the interim county administrator because of an application. I don't believe that a couple of weeks gives anyone an unfair advantage. They're basically working to keep the ship in the channel, to keep the train on the tracks for that time while we're finding the permanent county administrator. Because it's outside of what I believe the process was, I will not support that motion. That is my, thank you, Commissioner Weiss. I would like to make a substitute motion. My substitute motion would be that individuals who have applied for a county administrator should not be unjustly thrown out of the opportunity or the pool to be interim administrator because of an application that is a fair process. That's my motion. That's my substitute to the original motion, Madam Mayor.
We have a second. Commissioner Baxter, Vice Mayor Baxter, your light is on, and Commissioner Weiss, your light is on.
I'm going to make a substitute motion that we do eliminate any applicants in the process of applying for the administrator job to be eliminated from the possibility of being an interim county administrator.
I'll second.
And we have exhausted substitute motions. So we have a first from the Vice Mayor, a second from Commissioner Weiss. All in favor of the motion?
Take the motion, please.
The motion was to make Todd Von Laren administrator,
My substitute was
Oh,
to
sorry.
eliminate the possibility of anybody who is an applicant for the administrator position to serve as the interim administrator.
all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Nay. See that motion carries 5-2. Back to the original motion of Todd Von Laren as the county administrator, as the interim administrator.
Do we need to make another motion?
Yeah, we need a new motion.
I will make another motion that now that we have eliminated the applicants as a possibility, that Todd Von Laren be the interim county administrator.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. You can list anyone you like as the second. But
Could
we'll go
you
with
please clarify?
Commissioner Flores because he was the first second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. I'm sorry. Oh, Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Did we get clarity from Todd Von Laren if he would accept? Yes. You did? Okay. Okay, if you did, I want to hear from Todd.
I asked him already.
He didn't speak at the mic.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity and the confidence to have the ability to serve in the interim as the administrator. I will do my best to continue to steer the ship forward in a fashion that is responsible, that is respectful, that is under your direction, and work with all of our county employees to make sure that the transition between Mrs. Baker and our new administrator is as smooth and easy as possible. And I only ask that you fill that position as soon as possible.
Question?
Sir.
Thank you. Mr. Von Laren, being that you've agreed to accept the position, seeing that we don't have a contract for you yet, are you willing to go into contract negotiations to be the interim today? And your acceptance would be based on whatever your contract is worked out to be, because as an interim, you of course would need an interim contract to be the interim county administrator. Am I correct?
Yeah. And I would agree to do that, and I can assure you that that process will be smooth and easy, and we'll work with human resources to make sure that it's expedited as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Question for the board. As Mr. Von Laren just said, right, keeping the ship afloat and going down, major decisions like hiring and firing, will that be the purview of the interim administrator, or do we just say through his term, there will be no hiring and firing? Vice Mayor Baxter.
I think unless something egregious happens, we should freeze hiring and firing while we have an interim.
Attorney Kaufman.
I would respectfully suggest that there are everyday hirings throughout the departments that perhaps should not be impacted by this.
May I clarify firing then?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, Administrator Baker.
since I am still serving as the county administrator, I agree with the county attorney. There are things that need to continue to be processed. So yes, we need to continue hiring. We put in a new process. We're advertising daily, and we're trying to get these vacancies filled as soon as possible. So that person, we have a process for firing. And so if something egregious happens, there is a process in which even the county administrator follows. And so those procedures will be in effect, continue to be in effect, with support from HR along with the county attorney's office. So I don't believe it's really necessary for that particular issue, because no one should be immediately fired by the county administrator.
Thank you. Commissioner Sacks.
I believe that the county attorney will agree that the interim steps into the shoes of a county administrator. Otherwise, the business of the county is not able to proceed without limitation. And hopefully, as Mr. Von Laren said, we will move on these interviews and get them going. I think you still have work in Tallahassee to do anyways, and a couple little girls at home looking forward to seeing you all the time. So I think that just as the laws are, as the attorney well said, you step in the shoes of the administrator. So congratulations, Mr. Bonlaren,
Thank you.
and welcome to the position. I think we did vote.
We did
No,
not.
the clerk is saying no, and he's the boss.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? See that that motion carries 7-0.
Who's
Thank
the
you.
motion and the second?
You were
Okay.
the motion. Second was Commissioner Flores.
Okay.
Okay. It is 11 o'clock. Dr. Khan,
Can I just get one clarification?
sure?
So as I'm communicating with the candidates, we are still slated for the 12th for one-on-ones, so that will be the first time that they need to coordinate travel to come into Palm Beach
Correct.
County. Okay,
The only thing we removed was the interview process by the
Okay.
um,
thank you.
task force. Sorry? Commissioner Flores.
So, we were talking about travel, but yet we're gonna make him come twice, right? On the 12th and then back on the 16th.
That's correct.
What day is the 12th?
The 12th is a Thursday.
So, my opinion, my humble opinion, we either move that 12th to the Friday, the 13th, so it's all in a row, although they're gonna have to stay 2 weekend days, or we do the interviews on the 16th, and we have the community forum in the evening, which is, I think, your original plan anyways, to do it on the evening, right? Do you think it would be that taxing to do 7 interviews and a forum in the evening?
That depends on your one-on-ones and the questions you're going to ask.
Right. So it would be 7 meetings with each of us, plus the forum. I don't think that's that taxing. So maybe we just do 16th and 17th, just posting that to the board.
Commissioner Sacks?
Yeah, I think. I like the way that we're going, because we're streamlining this, and we're making it efficient. So whatever we can do, and again, I wish we had the chair of the task force here, but we don't. So Commissioner Flores, you said they will sit here for our interviews on the 12th, which is a Thursday, correct?
Currently, that's the plan, is the 12th, they would do one-on-one interviews with us.
Right.
I guess they would leave and come back on the 16th for the community forum, and on the 17th, they're doing their
That's a
live
BCC.
interview with the BCC,
Yeah,
correct?
I think that makes sense, and that's because it's consistent. So I would,
But that's not what I'm proposing. What I'm proposing is perhaps doing interviews the 16th, the community forum on the 16th too on that evening, and then on the 17th. That way they don't have to come 2 times.
so in other words, we would interview them on the 16th. They would be interviewed by the public, and on the 17th, we have the main vote.
Correct.
Let's do it. I agree with that. I agree with that. We have a BCC meeting on the 17th, and there's no reason why they have to spend the whole weekend here.
12th.
Now, that's Father's Day anyways, on Sunday. So, yeah, 16th and 17th. I agree with that, and I'll leave it up to my colleagues.
Commissioner Woodward?
Thank you. Just for my own clarification, did we set time limits for ourselves for the one-on-one interviews? So,
Not yet.
I mean, I'm assuming we could have, it's 6 now, 6 interviews. So if we were to set the same parameters of 45 minutes to an hour, whatever that was going to be, then each of us would move the 6 people through, and then they would have a little break before having the public forum that night?
If we start at 8 and we do 45 minutes and take an hour for lunch, we should be able to get through it if you,
We should be done by 2 or 3 o'clock, right?
well, yeah.
Okay. So do we need to decide the 45 minutes
I
for
think let's-
each individual one for ourselves so that they can cycle through and then have,
Let's do the date, then we'll do the time.
okay.
So right now, Commissioner.
I just asked that to make sure that there's a little bit of a break between our interviews with them and a little break before they go to the public. Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Hi, I am going to try to make a motion out of what I heard Commissioner Flores say. So we are going, I move to make the June 12th one-on-one dates the new date be June 16th, which is a Monday, to the one-on-one interviews with us, the commissioners. They will then still have the community forum the night of June 16th, and then on the 17th, I'm just stating this out loud so we're all on the same page, the 17th will still be the public, us, the board, interviewing them. So the motion, yeah.
So I have a motion by the Vice Mayor, a second by Commissioner Flores. All in favor? All opposed? See, that motion carries 7-0. Now, as to Commissioner Woodward's question about a time frame, do we want 45 minutes or an hour with each person individually? Commissioner Sachs.
Don't limit me. Don't limit me. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I don't even want to go into this. So let's just, don't limit me or anybody else to time limits when it comes to the people in my district wanting to ask questions on a new administration. So I'm not even going to go there. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to say this. It would be hard to have 6 folks on a schedule with individual interviews if we don't set time parameters. We will have an opportunity on Tuesday, as they're here in the public, and the public can see all the questions, hear all the questions, to interview them at a more extended time. But on Monday, when it's a one-on-one, if we don't have a schedule and we don't limit our time, we don't know if we will interview all 6 people and then have them available for the public in the evening.
Mayor, clarification from Commissioner Sachs on her statement. Do you, Commissioner Sachs, are you opposed to time limits on the public meeting, or are you opposed to the time limits on the individual interviews as well? Or both?
This is a very serious thing we're going to do. And I don't think any of us should have time limits. So somebody's going to come in and say, okay, you already had 40 minutes on this person. Oh, maybe I want 5 minutes. Maybe I want 50. So on our interviews personally, absolutely, we have no limits.
When we're letting
It would be
staff
reasonable.
schedule these, though.
Pardon
'cause
me?
When we're scheduling these, sorry. They're going to try to set them, we can set them on the hour if you want. There's 6 of them, right? There's 7 commissioners. So everyone would have somebody in an interview.
We have a
until they
mayor, and the
accept
mayor
one.
is really the person that we determined at the very beginning was going to run the way we made our policies. And I leave it up to the mayor. If I'm spending, I can't imagine, I mean, I have the resumes right here. I'm not going to take 45 minutes, but the idea of having somebody come in and say time is abhorrent to me. So, of course, we're professionals. We're going to respect each other's time. And we got a pretty tough mayor. I think that if I get a little bit over, she's going to knock on my door. But I don't think we need to have, like, time limits on this issue. And I think that we are professionals, and we will do a reasonable thing. That's my opinion on it. Thank you.
Commissioner Woodward, and then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you. To be clear, and with all due respect, there's not just 6, there's also 7. And if we're each rotating, down, they're moving from office to office to office, we can't have a free-for-all. We have to have some sort of a parameter of an hour. You can take less, whatever that's going to be, but you're going to leave someone sitting there waiting an extra 30 minutes, which again, I don't want to be a doctor's office where at the end of the day, we're 2-3 hours behind. So I don't see how we don't set some parameters on us. If you would like more than an hour, please say so, but we have to have some sort of a scheduling here. There's 7 of us that are all going to be here the entire day, 6 applicants. That's a lot of organizing that we have to do, and we do have to have some sort of time constraints on this.
Point of
Thank
order.
you, Commissioner. And I would leave this up to the mayor. I think
Yes,
1
the mayor is
hour
going to pipe in right
per
now because
one
we've
would be
called a
good.
point of order. Commissioner Weiss.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to ask, we have a lot of people sitting here for a different set of business. We did not say we were going to do this right now. I'm going to ask our board, can we just put this off until after we finish the regular business we have in front of us, and we can return to this item. They don't all need to be sitting here while we discuss this right now. I mean, it's really in the minutia.
We can bring it back under direction at the end of the meeting. Commissioner Flores.
I disagree with that point of order. We're literally talking about the procedure of the HR for the selection committee, and that's how we delve into this. So we are actually right on point with our agenda. So that point of order, I think it's out of place. We're having a discussion. I don't want to stop the discussion to then bring it up and rehash the discussion all over again. I think we finalize this and we move forward and then we conduct the business. My comments were going to be that we should not have a time limit, but everybody should be scheduled on the hour. So if Commissioner Sachs takes 3 minutes over that hour, but I agree with Commissioner Woodward that we shouldn't be taking more than what's reasonable too, because we don't want to be too late. We have to be fair to these individuals to perhaps take an hour and a half, 2-hour break before that forum. So we have to also be fair. So no time limits, schedule them on the hour, and we make this work.
This discussion is, it's time to bring this discussion to a close. As Commissioner Weiss indicated, we do have business that we need to do. This is also important. If we don't have a schedule, we will not get done in time. We need to set guidelines. If we set the interviews every hour on the hour with the hopes that we use 45 minutes of that, then our interviewees can take a break, go to the bathroom, have whatever in between. We be respectful of each other's time. I think that's the only way we can move forward with this. We can't have it open-ended. And we also have to be respectful of the other commissioners that are doing the interview process also. Vice Mayor.
I'm just going to say I agree. We do need to move on. We do have other business at hand, but I am in favor also of on the hour. I don't think we need some formal process to set in place for that. I think we can just say, hey, let's schedule us on the hour for each interviewee. I can make it a motion. Okay. I make the motion that we schedule each applicant on the hour with each commissioner, leaving one commissioner at a time with an hour break.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See, the motion carries 7-0. It is now 10 after 11. We have, I'm sorry. Dr. Khan, you were looking
Last
for clarification
question, I
before.
promise.
I'm
What
sorry.
time would you like to begin on the 16th?
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, okay.
I know it's early, but if we have delays, then we still need a break for them to have dinner before we have the meeting at night. So it's going to be a long day. I would ask the board to be patient on that day. It is going to be a long day. Commissioner Powell.
Madam Mayor, please consider maybe a little bit later than 8 because some of us do have school-aged children that we have to drop off. So maybe 8:30, 8:45. I can't just.
30 or 9.
I would go for 8:30 if that's amenable with the
That
board.
works.
Yeah, that.
Okay, 8:30. Again, it is now 11:11. We have several other items on our agenda today. Workshop item. Let's take workshop item A. Let's try to wrap this up by 12:15 so we can take an hour break for lunch. I'm looking at your 80-some-odd page presentation, and I know that there's a lot of duplication with the addendum A1 and 2 and 3. So can we not duplicate? Because I only saw like 2 different slides from the 3 presentations. So with that, after we've just exhausted a lot, we are now moving on to item A of the workshop, which is behavioral health. And thank you for all of you that are wearing green for get your green on this month. I didn't get the agenda item to wear green, but, oh, neither did you. You have a yellow tie on. Okay. So everyone have their attachments for this one, which would they look like this. Mental Health Workshop, May 2020, 2025.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners, and County Administrator Baker. Tammy Fields, Assistant County Administrator, and I will assure you that the shorter one is the one that we are working from.
Okay, and may I ask the board if it's okay, if you have questions, write your questions down, because this is a long presentation. Let's get through the presentation, then come back for questions.
Thank you. I want to start by I want to start by acknowledging that this was a workshop that the Board of County Commissioners requested to do an overview of mental health in Palm Beach County. And as you can see by the number of people that are sitting at the table, it's not an easy task to really be able to go over all aspects of mental health, but we're going to do the best we can. I want to introduce who is here and who you'll be hearing from during the course of this presentation. Darcy Davis from the Healthcare District, Dr. Gunta from Florida Department of Health, Chief Coyle from Fire Rescue, Dr. Green from Community Services, Ann Berner from Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, Elisa Kramer from the Youth Services Department, and Keith Oswald from the school district. There are many other people that are in the audience that can be available to answer questions if needed, but these are some of the major players. And I also did want to thank the board for acknowledging May as Mental Health Month. If you saw when you were coming in, if you heard the great music, wanted to say that playlist was developed by our future leaders, and Dr. Green's daughter is one of those future leaders. And the video, I want to thank Channel 20 for that, and they just informed me this morning that last year's Get Your Green on Video just received a Telly Award, so congratulations to Channel 20 for that. I'm going to do a very high-level overview, and more detailed information was in the backup, and then I'm going to turn it over to our system partners. The first part of our presentation is really going to focus on our system at large, and then towards the end, we're going to drill down a little bit further into the children's system, which was one of the reasons why this workshop was asked for in the beginning. As you can see from everybody is here, we do have, it's one of the best things about Palm Beach County is the community collaboration that we have. And one of the things that we all agree with is that the individual with the mental health needs has to be at the center of all of our decisions. So that's what our community collaboration chart reflects. There is a system, a continuum that we acknowledge here, and that is, it starts with that education, prevention, early interventions. Those are really critical to not have some of the deep end issues, but we know that there will always be that need for acute and crisis services, sometimes residential treatment. And then one of the things that's very important is that we're always making sure that we have recovery supports for those after an acute episode. And the partners here at this table all play different roles in that continuum, and some of us play multiple roles in that continuum. I'm going to address a few things in history, not go over this in bit by bit, but one of the things I found interesting, and thank you to the library department for helping with some of this research, is Palm Beach County has really been a leader in the area of mental health dating all the way back to the 1940s and 50s. There was a mental health society that was created back then, Palm Beach County leading it, who was advocating for a mental health department on the state level. It never was established, but they were advocating for it. And I thought what was interesting is even then, they were recognizing that mental health issues in schools and in the juvenile courts had to be a priority. They were really emphasizing that early intervention. wasn't until 1971 that Florida passed a Mental Health Act, and that was related to the Baker Act. It was the first legislation since 1874, so nearly a century, to deal with mental health in the state of Florida. Prior to that time, if a husband thought that his wife was crazy, could have them committed. There really wasn't a process to stop that. I think there was a process if it was in reverse, but not. And the Baker Act was really the first time that there were protections that were put in place for individuals who had the mental health needs and may be placed in a commitment program. And then in 1991, there was the Children's Services Council did the State of the Child. That was in response to the Denver school shooting. And then our managing entity, Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, the state of Florida started a managing entity pilot in 2010, and then in 2012, Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, which we'll refer to as SFBEN from here on out, was the one designated for our county. 2015, the Youth Services Department was established, and so was Birth to 22, and that's also the year that the Get Your Green On campaign was launched. 2017, we started to really be the epicenter of the opioid crisis, and Palm Beach County again took a leadership role and created the opioid response plan, and Fire Rescue first deployed their mobile integrated health teams. 2018, we were responding again to a crisis with the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, and that was when behavioral health specialists or professionals were added into each of the schools in the county. And I do want to point out that because of the collaboration we already had in place with Birth to 22, we were able to have meetings within 48 hours of that shooting of what we needed to do here in Palm Beach County, and had plans in place before the legislation was even passed. So we were far ahead of the game. 2022, we've got the opioid settlement, and then subsequently we have passed, the board has approved a plan for expenditures. And then one of the most recent events is the unfortunate closing in 2024 of JFK North from the standpoint of being able to do inpatient work for children under the age of 12. They still are the Baker Act receiving facility. So we'll look at funding. This chart does not reflect all of the funding that is in Palm Beach County. There's certainly foundations that are involved in nonprofits, but this chart does reflect that 141 million plus is expended on mental health in Palm Beach County. We've got many reasons to celebrate. We look at Palm Beach County was awarded the Robert Wood Johnson Culture of Health Prize. For county employees, we have the Platinum Bell Seal for workplace mental health, and now we've now had that 2 years in a row. 3 years having some level of award, and the last 2 platinum. We've got the upcoming central receiving facility. I already mentioned we have the behavioral health professionals in each school. And another area where the county took the lead is in creating a certification program in our high schools for high school students to be able to become behavioral health professionals and receive a certificate in behavioral health by the end of their high school term, and there's been scholarships awarded for them to also pursue further education. And I also wanted to mention the sanctuary certification that the Youth Services Department has. It is the only governmental entity in the state of Florida that holds that, and is only one of 3 in the United States as a governmental entity that holds that, and that is an international certification in trauma-informed care. But we do continue to have challenges along the way. One is the lack of, the obvious one, the lack of resources, hospital resources for children under 12. There still is an issue with the workforce pipeline. Unfortunately, we're not always paying at the same level, even though there are many of our psychologists and psychiatrists have to have very advanced degrees, but this area of work is sometimes not paid at the same level, and we're having a hard time recruiting. And then, unfortunately, our system continues to be a reactive system instead of a proactive system, and so further coordination will help. A few slides on data, and thank you to Dr. Gunta and the Health Department for providing this. We are seeing a slight dip in emergency room visits in 2024, but there's still over 60,000 emergency room visits for patients with acute mental health crisis. And Palm Beach County is 3rd in the state, behind Miami-Dade and Pinellas County in that. When we get to our drug overdoses, we are fortunately seeing a dip in emergency room visits for drug overdoses, 5,000 plus in the year 2024. And then I want to say thank you to Dr. Miller and the medical examiner for information on deaths. We have been seeing a significant decrease in the number of deaths due to drug overdoses since the peak in 2017. There was a slight bump during COVID, but we do believe that the programs that we have available, as well as the ready availability of Narcan now, are contributing factors to the decrease in death rate. Of course, we all want it to be 0. And the next chart shows suicides, and there has been fluctuations in the suicide rates over the last 10 years. I do want to point out that there have been none for the children under 12, so that is very fortunate. Dr. Miller just gave us information that there were no under 18 in the month of April. But again, this is something that we want to get down to no deaths. At this point, I'm going to turn this over to the Southeast Florida Behavioral Health Network, to Ann Berner, for her to continue. SEFBEN is our managing entity and has the largest amount of money in our system of care for mental health.
Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing me to present for you today. I went through and I thought, what would be the information I would want for you to come away with to better understand how we operate behavioral health here in Palm Beach County? And so I thought it would be helpful to talk about who it is that we serve. And so we provided you a list of the primary components of the individuals that we serve. And just as important is the individuals that we generally are not talking about. So when we talk about behavioral health, we're generally not including somebody with a traumatic brain injury. We're not including those individuals on the autism spectrum. We're not including dementia, that early onset dementia or later onset. So we're really, and that's not to say that there's not co-occurring. So when we talk about those other conditions, for example, a large portion of children who are on the spectrum also have a co-occurring mental illness. So those would all then fall under the major categories that we have here. And then of course, in addition to the mental illness, then we also address substance use disorders. how do we spend our money? That's always an important topic. And so I thought it would be more insightful to kind of break it down by our 4 major categories, starting with acute care. And one of the important functions that a managing entity serves is as the safety net for the community. And so that means in the acute care, our funding is available, funds availability. It's not driven by the number of contacts or the number of individuals served. It's there to ensure that when somebody is in crisis, that there's an available bed for them to be seen at. Mobile response teams are 24/7. We also have assessment and screening and intake that are designed to help identify those individuals that need more restrictive care and those that really can be served in an outpatient setting. So over 36% of our budget in Palm Beach County is dedicated to those services. We also provide a significant portion for residential treatment, and that includes adults and children, and it includes substance use and mental health. And those tend to be very expensive, very deep-end programs. We work with the state hospitals, we work with law enforcement and reentry, and really trying to make sure that for those individuals that require a more intense level of care, that it's available. We coordinate with insurance and with Medicaid, so we all know that those also have caps on the amount of time, but when it's medically necessary, we can extend and provide those services on a sliding fee scale. And so that's been an important piece that we've been able to bring individuals back from state hospitals and help provide community reentry, and also working with our prison systems, where we also make sure that when they come back in, that we've got a plan to meet and address their behavioral health. The community-based treatment is also a really important component, and that's your traditional outpatients, and it contains various levels. And those are provided by a network of providers, nonprofits and for-profits, and complements, again, the Medicaid and private insurance. The pieces that are generally not covered fall under our non-treatment services. So things like suicide prevention, school-based education and prevention around substance use, suicide prevention, those kinds of services are also included in our non-treatment, and provide, again, that support and continuity for that whole continuum. So we represent a continuum of care that goes from the very acute, very high-intense needs all the way to those that we're trying to identify early and divert from needing additional treatment. The other piece that I thought was important was to talk about the concept of no wrong door. And that means when somebody is in need of behavioral health services, how are they identified and how do we get them engaged in treatment? And so the pieces that we look at are at entry points that we've got a contact and can move them into the assessment, screening, and engagement process. And the no wrong door opportunities include our central receiving system, our 211 and 988 call lines. Law enforcement is a well-known entry point for behavioral health. Our schools, our court system, our hospital emergency rooms, and also our primary care providers. Again, giving a little more context around a no wrong door, and how do we know if we're accomplishing or meeting the needs of the no wrong door? And so I've outlined for you the expectations of an individual who's identified as having a behavioral health need, and we monitor and evaluate the success based on individuals who go to receive services but end up leaving or walking away or don't having their needs met. And so we want to make sure that we've got that capacity in our system. We also look for adequate staff and space, so they need to have a confidential area that they can be seen and screened. Timeliness is also an important consideration, and so when somebody is in crisis, we want to make sure that they're able to be assessed effectively and moved to that next level of treatment or engagement. We also look at avoidable arrests, and basically that arrest occurred as a result of a behavioral health symptom. And so we monitor and look at opportunities through some of our specialty courts to be able to provide alternative services and not have individuals in jail purely for the fact that they are experiencing a mental health crisis. We also want to look at our hospital emergency rooms and make sure that we are not boarding individuals in our ERs. And so we've got contact points, including our mobile response teams that would go and help assess individuals who may be under a Baker Act and looking for medical clearance. They may provide support and next steps for the family. And so it's important that we don't have individuals who are languishing in our ERs. I know there's been a lot of discussion around the children's mental health services, and I thought having a kind of an understanding of all the opportunities for children's mental health would be helpful. Children generally have Medicaid or a primary insurance, and so there's a relatively small number of children in Palm Beach County that don't have any type of insurance. And as I mentioned, sometimes we'll provide for expanded services or things that are not being allowed for by Medicaid or their primary insurance. We look at their social supports. We have effective collaborations with the school systems. And so the goal is really to identify children whose needs are not being met successfully. And generally, the managing entity will get involved in the children who are on the deepest end and having the most unsuccessful outcomes, as characterized by multiple Baker Acts and inability to stay in school. And so those are the children that we generally provide care coordination around, and that includes different levels of care. So it may be a team approach with our children's assertive treatment teams. It may be in family therapy or with our multisystemic therapy, which is evidence-based practice that helps families overcome some of the dysfunction that they're experiencing. And so we try to be nimble and be able to address and have different opportunities for various treatments for our children. And so I think we've been successful at diversifying from just traditional therapy. So art therapy, equine therapy, those kinds of things are also things that we help not just fund, but help provide training for and certification around. The last slide that I wanted to talk to you about was kind of that evolution of going from least restrictive care for children to the most restrictive, and that kind of gives you a flow and some of the terms that we would use in helping children progress through the system and making sure that they're being intercepted at the right point in time, that they're receiving the right intensity and the appropriate services. So the children's care has been a challenge here. We all suffer from the workforce issues. There's a lot of challenges around access to care and family engagement. And so that continues to be a focus of how do we collaborate better, how do we make sure that we're addressing those needs and maximizing opportunities for families to improve here in Palm Beach County. And I know you have so much to hear from a lot of others, and so I'm going to keep it moving and hand the clicker off.
Thank you, Ann. CEFBEN is an essential partner, and so is the healthcare district. So I'm going to turn it over to Darcy Davis.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. So last time I was here, we talked a little bit about where we're going, so I thought I would start with where we are and how we provide care today. So Healthcare District really got into the mental health space in 2017 in response to the opioid crisis. We stepped in a medication-assisted treatment and an outpatient approach, and we've expanded our footprint as time has gone on. If you see the slide here, we're really starting from that crisis response, helping make access points, in particular with law enforcement. And in fact, last week we just had a press conference where we really introduced our Operation Coast, the crisis outreach and response teams, and it provides tools to law enforcement to give them other options besides jail and a Baker Act. So here, what you'll see, we actually, I think we have 5 now, MOUs with law enforcement, and it allows them to bring someone in the heat of a crisis to our Mangonia location and allow our professionals to try to de-escalate and avoid the Baker Act. In fact, less than 2% of people who've been brought to us have actually had to be Baker Acted, so we've seen really good results. And then another of the crisis response tools is also a pilot program where our providers are riding in the back of an unmarked vehicle with the sheriff's office, a peer as well as a mental health counselor, and they're going out to individuals in crisis when a 911 call is received. So this is our effort to really ramp up that crisis effort as we head towards the future, which is that mental health crisis center, the central receiving facility. Moving up the spectrum to the less acute, intermediate care. So we currently have a network of federally qualified health centers. I'll talk about those in just a moment in terms of outpatient, but this really are these are those access points. We have walk-in availability and appointments, of course, at 5 of those community health centers across the county. Our Mangonia Park location, again, we're ramping up our staffing, ramping up our protocols in order to make sure that we're available. So we are currently 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., and we're accepting appointments. And this is also where the law enforcement are bringing individuals who need help. We see adults and children there. We are not turning anyone away, regardless of their ability to pay. Moving to that follow-up care, so we really started in that outpatient space, and we continue to believe that we have a very unique model. When someone comes to one of our clinics, not only are they getting their physical health cared for, they're getting their mental health, they get dental care, we have women's services, and so on. So we are really taking care of that whole patient. We recognize that often it's very difficult for someone to get in to see us, so we're trying to address all of their needs at one time. And then, of course, we say all the time that mental health is a medical condition, but it takes more than medicine to take care of an individual. And in terms of social services, all of our clinics, and particularly in our mental health space, are connecting people with other social determinants of health. We're working with all of our community partners to find housing, transportation, whatever those needs are, to really make sure that we're helping prepare them for success. This is just a visual of where we're located. These are our existing clinics. That orange is that hot spot. That is the Mangonia Clinic, which is really ground zero for all of our mental health services. The blue are where we are accepting, and we have licensed clinical social workers and other clinicians. And then, of course, in our other 2 locations, we do have telehealth access. And this is just a list of the types of providers we have. We do have a board-certified child psychiatrist on staff. We have a geriatrician, a psychiatrist who is trained in geriatric care, along with a number of other essential resources. This is where we're going. I think you may have seen this slide. This may look familiar to you. What we're talking about is creating this crisis center, the central access point for care. Law enforcement, EMS, anyone can walk in. This is the access point where anyone in crisis or potentially, hopefully, ahead of crisis can enter the system and receive 24/7 care, urgent needs, addiction, psychiatric, mental health needs. And the goal here is to avoid the Baker Act. So it will be a Baker Act receiving facility, a Marchman Act receiving facility, but our goal, again, is to try to get ahead of the stigma, get ahead of that crisis. In that location, we're introducing more of it's a chair concept. This is something that SAMHSA, Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration, really points out as best practice, which is to create 23-hour observation units. These are calming environments with chairs, not beds, where the clinical providers address their treatment needs and try to de-escalate and find what that next success point looks like for an individual. We will be moving our outpatient presence into the same location, so this becomes a one-stop shop. So everything I just described in terms of what we provide on an outpatient basis will also be in the same location. And then, of course, the connection with the community partners. It's essential, now and into the future, for sure. And this just summarizes what I mentioned. Really, that 24/7 crisis care is where we're going. Inpatient and outpatient. There will be a limited number of beds in that crisis center. Of course, we're trying to avoid those beds, but it's often you cannot. This is for adults and children. And again, no one's turned away. And as part of our integrated primary care model, again, I think it's essential to establish that medical home for someone in this environment. And that's me.
Thank you, Darcy. And of course, the Florida Department of Health is another essential partner. And so, Dr. Gunta, I'll turn it over to you. I do want to point out that there was some additional backup in the other packet from the Health Department, particularly on the OD2A program.
you, and good morning. Thank you for allowing me to present on this important topic this morning.
Yeah, there.
So I want to emphasize that the health department is mostly all about upstream medicine and prevention. And so this graph really shows that initiative that the health department has been involved with mental health and behavioral health since 2020. So this just diagram shows that we partner with many different community partners in this county to come up with relevant data, real-time data that we share with our different community partners in order to help them strategize prevention and focus points on how to move forward with mental health and behavioral health strategies. Overdose and substance use disorder is a focus point for the health department, just because substance use disorder, it goes hand in hand and has a strong correlation with mental health disorders. Actually, one in 4 adults have mental health problems, also have a substance use disorder. So many people who have mental health disorders turn to a substance to self-medicate for their anxiety and other mental health disorders that they are suffering from. And it can also work the other way around, where substance use disorder also feeds into a mental health disorder. So it is important to address both. Our team engages in professional presentations throughout the county and with the CDC for data and information presentations on mental health and substance use disorder. We have developed a real-time dashboard that is interactive and can be used to target high-risk zip codes throughout the county.
Okay.
I guess I'm not strong enough. So this diagram is actually borrowed from the county. This just goes to show that we co-align our priorities with the county. So the health department engages with the county, and we align with the county priorities on mental health and behavioral health initiatives.
Oops. You went too far. There.
Thank you. So then we also have a program within the health department, which is the Maternal Child Health Division, where we house 47 nurses. And under that program, all our nurses provide Edinburgh postpartum depression screenings for all new clients and their initial assessments at the program pathway specific intervals. Nurses discuss the screening and results with the clients, and those who screen positive are then referred to community health services for mental health. We also house the Women's Health Initiative Program, which actually focuses on pregnant women who are African American to ensure that they have positive pregnancy outcomes, as well as decrease infant mortality rates for those women. And the zip codes for those are mostly in West Palm Beach, as well as surrounding zip codes. There we also administer the EPDS for all WIN clients, and they are referred to our community partner for mental health services. Under the same maternal child health program, we also have it's called Healthy Beginnings Nurses Program. It's a home-based, nurse-led program that supports pregnant women and infants and their families. Through that program, all clients also are administered the Edinburgh depression screening, and we connect those clients as well to various community services for mental health problems and issues. We have clinics throughout the county, and in those clinics, we service infectious disease clients, and so those that are tested for infectious diseases are also given the opportunity to have a one-on-one or a FaceTime telehealth service for mental health during their intake appointments, and they're offered initial counseling and follow-up services as well. We've had a robust refugee clinic as well at the health department, and those clients are also there to complete a Pathways to Wellness refugee health screen, and those that are tested positive are referred to Center for Family Services for Palm Beach County. We also, patients that come in to our clinics for maternity services, for family planning services, for sexual health services, and TB clinics, they're all administered a mental health screening as well. And those that test positive are then again, depending on their acuity level, some of them we've had to transfer to, emergency department, but depending on their acuity level, we make sure that they are referred to different mental health services within the community.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gunta. And next, looking internally into Palm Beach County, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Green to talk about what the Community Services Department does.
Thank you. Thank you, Tammy. So the Community Services, we help oversee and kind of maintain the Health and Human Services safety net for the county. The Health and Human Services element, which is included in the county's comprehensive plan, kind of outlines how all of the major funders and stakeholders come together in specific areas to make sure that our system is operating efficiently. This kind of helps us work collaboratively to work with our vulnerable residents, including those facing mental health. And we work with the Citizens Advisory Committee and Birth to 22 partners to enhance our system performance. And so when we identify gaps within our system of care, particularly in health and wellness, the Board of County Commissioners allocate approximately $6 million in FAA funding to kind of fill those gaps and improve our system's effectiveness. Our role in the Health and Human Services Health and Wellness domain primarily focuses on recovery supports, including things like housing and employment and peer supports, things that are aligned with the social determinants of health. So in collaboration with the Behavioral Health, Substance Use Disorder, and Co-occurring Disorder Advisory Committee, we provide updates to the board for funding for the annualized $9.7 million received for opiate settlement funds. And following the board's directives, 90% of those are allocated towards recovery supports and social determinants of health, and then another 10% for treatment. And the BCC has also invested about $1.5 million in behavioral health funding for recovery hubs and things of that nature. And our partnership with FAR, the Florida Association of Recovery Residents, and to help establish a Center for Integrated Recovery Wellness with the Department of Social Work and Criminal Justice at Florida Atlantic University. This is the sixth either university or research firm that our department has collaborated with. And so talking about the recovery hubs, those are strategically located in areas where there are high rates of mental health issues, and the hubs assist individuals who have completed treatment by connecting them to a variety of recovery supports, including housing, employment, peer support services, and they provide, the infrastructure to facilitate enhanced recovery for those through the no wrong door approach that Ann was just talking about. And research also shows that sustained engagement with these hubs is crucial for long-term recovery success. So all of these goals and the strategic investments that we're making in our mental health system are outlined in the master plan, which was approved by the board last year. Community Services, we serve as the designated entity to communicate updates to the BCC and to collaborate with our system partners in an efficient and effective manner.
Thank you, James. And our first responders are often the ones who encounter individuals with a mental health crisis right from the beginning. So I'm going to turn it over to Chief Coyle to talk about Fire Rescue's role.
Good morning, and thank you for having us here. I'm going to talk about a few ways Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is honored and able to serve with our community partners to help the mental health of the citizens in this county. The first one is Baker Acts. There's only 2 authorized Baker Act receiving facilities, hospitals in Palm Beach County. So that means that sometimes fire rescue will bypass one hospital to go to another hospital. There's 2 reasons why that's important. Number 1 is because we need to make sure that that patient is able to get to where they have the best opportunity to get care expediently. That's number 1. Number 2 is the safety of our hospital partners. We're all familiar with the situation that occurred at one of our local hospitals not too long ago, and Palm Beach County Fire Rescue was honored to be a part of that process with peer support and our chaplaincy program going to care for those people that had to witness that horrific event and help them get back to work faster. Next, our mobile integrated healthcare program. Currently, it consists of 2 full-time social workers and 2 part-time social workers. We also have 2 community paramedics. There are several ways our mobile integrated healthcare program intervenes on calls or after calls. The crews have the opportunity to reach out to our mobile integrated healthcare team anytime during a call, or they're able to send a request to the team for the team to triage it and make sure they get to that person as soon as possible. Furthermore, that team works closely with all of our county partners, including DCF, specifically when it comes to children. They never want to impede in any investigation that may be going on. So after they get the referral, they coordinate with DCF as well as the county partners to make sure all of the family needs are addressed. That could be done in several fashions, several different methods. Number 1, it could be done through telehealth. Number 2, it could be done from an in-person visit. One of the unique things about our team is it's never just a social worker alone. That social worker goes with a community paramedic to make sure we're as safe as possible. And then lastly, all of the partnerships that exist in our county. It's an honor to be able to be a part of each and every one of them. Our team does a phenomenal job. Our social worker coordinator, Lauren Young, is in the audience today. She leads that division and makes sure that they always have what they need to partner with the county partners. However, there's a couple of different things that she also does. She's on the Florida EMS Health Liaison for Pediatrics, and she is constantly working with youth services to make sure that our pediatric population is not underserved.
Thank you, Chief. And now we're going to go a little bit deeper on our children's services. And I want to point out, and I know that several of you are very aware of the work from the Center for Child Counseling, looking at the adverse childhood experiences and the effects of trauma on children, and why we want to build resiliency in children so that hopefully they won't have the need for the deep end services in adulthood. So first I'm going to turn it over to Elisa Kramer, Director of the Youth Services Department.
Good morning. So as you all know, the Palm Beach County Youth Services Department was created in 2015 in response to the Sandy Hook shooting, and also as a way of making sure that all of the youth-serving organizations funded by the county were under one umbrella. We have 3 divisions, and the one that we will focus on today is our Residential Treatment and Family Counseling Division, which provides all direct care services, clinical services to youth and families. One thing that is noteworthy about our services, as Tammy mentioned earlier, we are certified in the Sanctuary Model of Trauma-Informed Care, and that means that as an organization, we recognize that adversity is universal, and so the way that we want to address it is by healing through building resilience and fostering healthy relationships. So that carries over into all of our direct care services, as well as our relationships with our community-based organizations and within our administrative team as well. The High Ridge Family Center led our certification in 2019. The department, thank you. The department was certified department-wide in 2022, and we are expecting a site visit next week by the Andrus Institute for recertification for another 3 years. So our Residential Treatment and Family Counseling Division provides all of our mental health services, and it ranges from educational programs, training of mental health providers and professionals, behavioral health professionals, as well as our outpatient services, free family therapy in our locations throughout the county, our residential services at High Ridge Family Center, and some school-based and community-based individual therapy and groups. All of our services are trauma-informed. They can be either in-person or virtual, and they are provided in Spanish and Creole at certain locations as well. This slide just highlights some of the data that we collect. We conduct satisfaction surveys, so we are always trying to make sure that we are meeting the need of the family and that we are gauging the progress of the youth who are receiving services. So during last fiscal year, 2024, we provided almost 120,000 hours of mental health services. We are very proud to report a 97% satisfaction, and 96% reported increased resiliency. 94% reported feeling like they can express their feelings better, and 88% reported believing that their family gets along better thanks to the services and engagement with the Youth Services Department. And finally, we also support community-based agencies that provide mental health services to children and their families, focused on mental health as the #1 priority that was amplified in the Youth Master Plan 2.0. We are partnering with community-based agencies and ensuring that any access to service or any gaps in services that we are identifying, that we are prioritizing that with our funding recommendations. In fiscal year 2025, this current fiscal year, $812,285 was contracted to agencies that provide mental health services. And in order to create greater efficiency, there is a planned transfer and allocation of funding that would begin in October for any youth and family mental health programs that were previously funded through the Community Services Department.
Thank you, Elisa. And of course, we can't talk about children without talking about the services provided at the school district. So I'm now going to turn it over to Keith Oswald, who the partnership between the school district, Children's Services Council, and Youth Services Department is absolutely amazing. We work hand in hand on a regular basis.
Thank you, Tammy. And I'm going to officially say now good afternoon, which means you're about 15 minutes from lunch, so we'll try to keep this going. And on behalf of Superintendent Burke and the entire school board, we want to thank the entire commission and County Administrator Baker for your support for the school district. We couldn't be an A-rated school district without all the partnerships that are here today. What I want to go through is a lot of what has changed since 2018. You know, I've been around the district for over 30 years and kind of known the shifts that we've had, in particular in the space of mental health. First, one of the things that we educate, and I'm going the wrong way here, on each one of our school campuses, that we tell our students that it's okay to be okay, it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to ask for help. And that's clearly had a significant difference when you look at some of the numbers in the packet of the number of kids we're serving through the school district, and in addition with our partnerships. What you'll find at every school campus now is a robust mental health team that includes a behavioral health professional that Tammy mentioned that really came out from the Youth Symposium, now the Birth to 22 work. We have co-located agencies, which I'll talk about, that are on 115 campuses. A lot of that support is thanks to the community and the referendum here in Palm Beach County. In addition, the old-fashioned, everybody knows about the school counselor, the school psychologist, as well as that administrative team. So on the district employees, what you'll find now is that we have, with the referendum, we added additional school counselors and school psychologists on our campuses. In addition, our behavioral health professionals. So we worked with Birth to 22 and others to design this particular job description, and one exists on every single school here in Palm Beach County. In addition, we have what's called the CAPE team, which I'll talk more about, that's supported through the state allocation of the mental health allocation as well as the referendum. Our co-located agencies Again, those are on 115 of our campuses. I'll talk a little bit more about those in just a moment. And then our collaboration. Again, Palm Beach County School District cannot do this alone. We have over 30 agencies that we partner with behavioral health agreements that we refer out. We have a Caring First website where all of our schools can do direct services and email for one of these agencies to pick up a student who needs additional support. But what I want to talk about is all the support they can get on a campus. So the co-located agencies, so this really meant to address the issue of a parent, if we refer, I know I used to be a principal, I refer a parent to go to somewhere to get additional support. We kind of hoped and prayed that that parent might go and get that support that their child needs. What we did is put this agency right on our school campuses. They become part of the whole school community. Again, this was designed in partnership with Birth to 22. That has resulted with over 3,200 students this current year receiving services right on our school campuses. They don't need a diagnosis, and we do up to about 12 sessions for that in particular student. If they need additional support, we refer them out to another agency. But there's 15 agencies right now, about 15, I think maybe 13, we're trying to get more, that are servicing 115 schools. So you heard Center for Child Counseling mentioned, they're on 15 of our campuses. So we pay them, they put the therapists right on the campus. The behavioral health professional, that's a new position that was added, again, thanks to the referendum. That's on every single school campus. They're servicing about, oh gosh, it's 23,000 students on our campuses, resulting in 136,000 sessions. Okay, these are positions that we did not have before 2018, so I think that's really important to note. In addition, what we added from the referendum was a new department. So the Department of Behavioral Mental Health, led by Dr. Mary Clara Musanek, who's here, as well as Dr. Anna Irizarry, who manages the CAPE team, is a new department to provide the support. So I'm talking at a high level about a lot what we do at the school district. There's other things that we do, from educating students about suicide awareness that's required, all the other topics that we talked about. The CAPE team, the Crisis Assessment Prevention Education team, similar to what you've heard about mobile crisis units in the community, we added this additional position because we knew schools were struggling when a student was in crisis on a school campus and they needed that immediate support. What do you do? I've been a principal. I know it's tough to deal with when that kid needs that support right now. This team goes out to the school, provides that support to assess the child, decide whether or not the goal is really to de-escalate or work with one of our partnerships, like the healthcare district, and maybe go to their particular clinic or with some of the resources in the community to de-escalate the situation. If not, then the student would be Baker Acted and they would be transferred for the involuntary evaluation. This has been well received by our schools. We've had this year alone over 1,200 phone calls that this team has received from schools to get that additional support. So we added a lot of resources since 2018. Clearly they're being used by our numbers. So we're very fortunate that we're able to support that, but we could not do it with all the partnerships. And I can tell you that been in the county a long time, and the partnerships that exist with all these people here and others that are in the audience and those not here, I've never seen the collaboration that we have now going on to provide such support for the students as well as the adults, but for us, for the students. So I do want to thank, again, your entire team here, and again, on behalf of the school board and the superintendent, thank you for your support, and I don't want to keep you from your lunch, so I'm going to keep it moving.
Okay, we're almost done. Lastly, Dr. Lisa Williams-Taylor is in the audience. There weren't enough seats here, but we do have funding, a substantial amount of funding, over $10 million from the Children's Services Council that is also invested in mental health programs. And I do want to acknowledge the role that the Children's Services Council plays as the co-lead of the Birth to 22 initiative, along with the Youth Services Department. And then we received this last information at the end of putting this packet together, but did want to provide you a slide regarding the VA and the services that are provided to veterans at through the VA hospital, and they also have a veterans crisis line. We gave you a lot of information, and we're really only scratching the surface as to mental health in Palm Beach County, but we do appreciate all of your attention and your interest in mental health. I appreciate all those who are sitting at the table and those that are in the audience. I did want to make an offer to the board that May is Mental Health Month, and if you would like us to dive deeper into various issues about mental health once a year in a workshop forum, we could go a little bit deeper, but this was what we could fit into a workshop session and give you a high-level overview of what all is involved in the delivery of mental health services in Palm Beach County.
Thank you,
We're
Ms.
open for
Fields.
questions.
We do have a couple questions, but I do want to say thank you for I mean, I have lots of papers.
Yeah.
And I know that if we don't ask our questions here today, we all can get in touch with you for more information. There's plenty out there. And with that, I will ask Commissioner Weiss, then Commissioner Woodward, then Commissioner Flores.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much for this presentation. So my first question has to do with mental health court, because you guys didn't touch on that, which is something that is one of the priorities that I've been working on. Can you update us on what the current status of mental health court is?
Mental health court is continuing. I probably should turn that one over to Ann with CEFBEN, because they've been a big support into the mental health court.
Indeed. And thank you, Commissioner Weiss, for the question. We continue to work closely on the misdemeanor mental health court. We have a specialty court for felonies, but that has primarily to do with restoring competency. And so we're looking forward to some changes at the state level on how competency restoration is addressed. But we continue to have a very successful misdemeanor mental health court that really is effectively diverting. We've got significant buy-in from the state's attorney, from the public defenders. We've got certified peer specialists that actively engage individuals. And so we follow them all the way through the process and then make sure that they have the right level of behavioral health supports so that we prevent them from coming back in. And so in the near future, I'd love to be able to provide some more details about the success of diverting individuals and not having them either end up with felonies or cycling back through. But that was very much initiated by the interest of Commissioner Weiss and dedicating resources so that we've got clinical professionals and peers in court at the time so that assessments are being done and public defenders buy in. And so it has been very successful, and we're really appreciative of the support of the commission.
Okay, thank you. One of the concerns I also have is our children in foster care. Do we have direct services directly for them specifically?
Yes, the way that the behavioral health services work for children who are in out-of-home care placements, so the lead agency is ChildNet. They work with Sunshine, which is the Medicaid specialty plan that provides services that are they're the only ones that provide the child welfare behavioral services, and that's closely coordinated with care coordinators. We frequently do staffings with them, and there's a board for community-based care called the Community Alliance, and that's one of the initiatives that we're working on right now is ensuring access for children who are in the child welfare system and ensuring that they have the right, the immediate availability and then the right service intensity. But that's that's again maybe another workshop to go into, the needs for, especially for teens and youth aging out of foster care.
So if possible, as a follow-up, I'd like to ask to get more information about that. How many kids are receiving that kind of service and at what level?
This could be a
because
memo to the board, right?
it can, I don't care how it comes.
Okay.
They can send it a memo, they can send it by carrier pigeon, it's all good.
Commissioner Weiss, if I could also add that one of the other things that has been supported by the board is the visitation center. That was one of the priorities when the Youth Services Department was created. So the visitation center is also a place for engagement for families who have children in foster care and being able to do some reunification with birth families.
I appreciate that. You know, these children are removed from very bad situations, so the assumption is in order to help support them and try and get things back on track. These kids have, I mean, the record of success for them is not good. They struggle, and you know, they are wards of the state. They are our children. They're not, and I think it's incumbent upon the public, upon us, to make sure that they're getting the services and the attention that they need to hopefully break that cycle. I have a couple more things. One is in the schools. We know cell phones have done tremendous, and this is coming from Mr. Technology, but have done tremendous damage to our children that we had not anticipated because of their access to social media and some of the other things they can access. Where are we on the ban on cell phones in schools?
Sure, thank you for that question, Commissioner Weiss. So there's a new law that's coming in effect, a new bill that just came about that will ban cell phones kindergarten through 8th grade. That'll take effect July 1st, so we'll be workshopping with the school board May 28th about this change and this new policy. The school board probably will deliberate about what that means for high school. Right now, the way the law is written, it was a little bit of the House, a little bit of the Senate, and they kind of mixed it to study the effects of cell phone usage in high schools and get back to the legislature. The school board could possibly take a more restrictive approach. Right now, our principals do a pretty good job at managing it. The law does require the students have them away during instructional time unless a teacher does allow them to take it out for any use. But completely understand the concern around cell phones and social media.
I mean, the social media companies are, I mean, they are targeting youth. I mean, they know how to do it, and they're using every power that they have to try and keep their attention on the device as opposed to what's good for the kids. So, and then on slide number 10, I think there's a typo in 2022. We've got total suicides less than our suicides for 18 plus. So I think it's just, I'm guessing it's just a typo. And then lastly, on slide number 13, Ms. Berner, the state invested, I guess, through federal programs and so forth, $70 million. Do we know how many people are served by that $70 million?
We do. So we have direct client services, and so we serve about 18,000 individuals in Palm Beach County, and then we have other services that are not client-specific, so school-based prevention, outreach, where we are reaching a broader number of less specific, and those generally is 30 or 40,000 in our prevention initiatives.
Okay, and then my very last question is, do we have centralized record keeping for everything that is going on so that if one person is getting service, everybody else that might encounter this person can see all of what's going on? And I see a bunch of heads shaking no. I think that's got to be a priority.
It has been attempted on several occasions.
I don't think there's any reason, there's no reason to not have it available, other than that the systems just don't work together.
We do collect Medicaid encounter data related to behavioral health. So when we identify through demographic records, monthly Department of Children and Families and Agency for Healthcare Administration send back encounters. So we do see who's getting Medicaid, behavioral health, and who are we paying for out of block grant or state dollars. So basically, procedure code and encounter data is about what is all that we're limited to.
I mean, I really think the entire records, because you have everybody from law enforcement to fire rescue to the health department to the schools. Everybody potentially can encounter the same individual without having any of the other information of what's happening and how to, you know, how they might best be able to help that individual. I think it's incumbent upon us to get this done. It's certainly just a matter of will. The solutions are out there. I think it's just a matter of will to get it done. So,
yeah, that is something that we've been discussing. It's I think a crucial part of our system of care operating in the most efficient way, and so we'll continue to discuss how we can whether build APIs or do whatever type of agreements needed so that we can begin to share information.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward, your light is on.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. You nailed in on my whole page of notes, so you've said a lot of it. I can be shorter. Yes, on the annual updates, I like that idea of coming back every May to give us this. And with that, piggybacking on what Commissioner Weiss was just saying, we need to be able to track this. And I wrote down tracking without tracing, which I'm not, you know, I don't know how, because of HIPAA, I know there's certain considerations that we do have to make, but we have all of you sitting here, and there's a solid chance that individuals that we're helping have come through multiple of these. And, you know, where you had measurables on page 14 and 15 that you gave us ways to track and no wrong door and how they enter the system. But then once they get into the system, like, where do they go? And how do we track progress? And how do we know what's working? And we're putting a lot of different piles of money into each of these. And, you know, we need to be able to kind of answer for this and find out what is working and what isn't. And, you know, there's no perfect solution that's going to cover everybody. We know there's a lot of different ones, but we also fund a lot of nonprofits that partner with all of you or some of you. So putting together the system, yeah, it's a big ask, but we need this. And so I would like, when you come back next May, to have some work on that, because it's a lot of collaboration. I went back and looked at these circles, all of these different groups that are working together. But how much of this is redundant for an individual who maybe is getting a little bit of help and then they pull back and then they get back into the system and try a different route, instead of us kind of getting that person and helping them manage all the way through into stable life as good again, recovery, and not just how do they keep entering our system and what do we do with them. So I would like, if you could, when you come back, you all get together and, you know, and tell us what it takes. This is a big ask, and we know that privacy is a concern for people. We don't want them to ever feel like we're going to flag them for their entire future that they came through this. We want them to get better. But in order for us to know whether or not we're succeeding, we do have to track their progress. And we also don't want them falling through gaps in the system because they enter no wrong door, but then maybe they leave out of a wrong door. And so we need to be able to keep up with this. So that's my ask for you. You have a year now when you come back to help us on tracking this with those parameters of honoring people's privacy, but you have to give us answers and show us what is and isn't working, and maybe where we need to be focusing in the gaps. So that's my ask. Thank you.
Commissioner Flores?
Thank you. Thank you for doing this. I think this is probably came about because of some of my comments regarding a particular situation with a minor. Mental health is important to me. I've seen it firsthand with soldiers. I've seen how they come back and they are not able to cope. And so to me, this is personal, and I've seen it firsthand. Some of the bravest people that I've known, and they come back and then they're not able to fall back into society. And if that happens to the bravest of the bravest, imagine a child, or imagine a mother struggling, or homeless individual who's struggling, who's falling on hard times. So this is important to me, and I think it's important to a lot of people in our community. When I look at this pie chart of funding, we are allocating a lot of resources into this, and I share the sentiments of my fellow commissioners about centralizing data so that we're able to make sure that we are being accountable and we're also tracking progress. I think that's important. And I love the idea of you coming back next year, but we have many different entities that are managing many different components of this. And it's hard. I think it's hard to know who's doing what and when and how and what's the most efficient way of doing that. So my point is, yes, come back to us in a year, but I really would like you guys to be meeting almost on a monthly basis to make sure that we are being efficient with how we are delivering these services, that we're not duplicating efforts, that we are able to maximize every penny possible to deliver more services. And some of the things that you have said is a lot of what we're doing is after the fact. And I would like to be more proactive. And I don't know, I'm not an expert in this field, but I don't know how we are more proactive. And we, as a fellow soldier, one of the things that we were always taught was to identify someone who could be going through struggling, their change in behavior. Remember, as a soldier, we carry weapons. So we have to identify, make sure that they don't harm themselves or someone else. But it's still the same case for our community. What we are trying to do here is prevent any potential tragedies to happen in our community. So how do we engage the community? And I know that we all struggle with engaging the community at times. It's hard. We're all vying for 10 seconds of their attention. But this has to be a priority to our community. And we need to partner with TV, radio stations, and whoever, because I know they provide some free advertising. But we have to make a concerted effort in this community to continue to move this forward, the messaging, identifying people that could be struggling, that are going through rough times. Because I think that's how we're really gonna move the needle. I love what the school district is doing. I commend you. But how do we, when they graduate, they tap into resources at the college level or when they go off into the workforce, which is why tracking might be good. I like what you said, Commissioner Woodward, tracking but without tracing, I think is what you said. I think we don't want to criminalize a mental issue. I also worry about some of the comments that Commissioner Weiss mentioned. But how about students that don't go to the school district? How about students who are taught at home and lack social skills? Because that's sometimes what we see when some of these kids are taught at home. How do we identify those individuals who fall through the cracks? How do we avoid the cracks? So I think these are a lot of the things that having meetings amongst yourselves would be beneficial, and having that open line of communication. I know I'm asking for far more than probably you bargained for, but I think it's upon us to do the work and to prevent a catastrophe. I wanted to ask regarding the central facility. Where are we with that? I know that we gave you a few years to get this underway. I feel like one of the main issues is beds. So where are we with that central facility, or where are you with that?
So I anticipate, our board is meeting again June 11th, and I anticipate that they will approve the purchase and sale agreement for the land. We have selected a project manager, and we are in the final phases. In fact, I think tomorrow we're selecting a design firm. So we are moving down the path as quickly as possible.
And you've identified the site?
We have.
Where is it going to be?
Off Southern Boulevard and Benoist Farms. So there's 9 acres there that we've got an agreement with the seller to purchase. And so hopefully June 11th, with the support of our board, they'll approve that purchase and sale agreement.
Excellent. And I love the presentation, but I've had individual conversations with some of you, and when I ask what are the hurdles or what are some of the issues, I didn't hear all those come out today. And I understand we're doing a presentation for the board and the public is listening, but I think we have to be real about what we're talking about here. And we have to identify those hurdles and try to see how we overcome it collectively. Because when you look at this, $141 million is being invested collectively into mental health. And you know, I feel proud of that number, but I also know that there's a lot of people that go unnoticed or unattended. And when I hear that the sheriff's office is the #1 provider of mental health, it's because it got too late, right? It got to the point that now that's sort of their last strike. Now they ended up with law enforcement. So I want to not have that be the saying. I want to make sure that we take care of our people. So thank you. Let's continue doing the work. Let's get together. Let's be more flexible, nimble. Let's collaborate and see how we, as a community, continue to enhance these services. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. I'm very proud of all the remarks made by the members of this board. Very quick, 2 or 3 questions. Dr. Darcy Davis, how many beds are you going to have with the new facility that we just gave you money for?
So as I mentioned, the majority of those will be chairs, because the idea is to
Chairs,
not put
not
them in
beds?
beds. So we will have some inpatient beds. So
How many?
approximately 10 youth beds
10.
and 12 adult beds.
Okay.
So our feasibility study indicated that we have sufficient beds in Palm Beach County, and that what we really need are this de-escalation space, these chairs, which is that model that.
Very good, thank
SAMHSA
you.
Yeah.
Secondly, are you doing Baker Acts now?
Not now, but in.
Who is?
So St. Mary's is a Baker Act receiving facility, and JFK
So
North,
she is,
yes.
JFK North is not,
They are not for children.
not anymore.
They are for children.
So who is doing our Baker Acts for children? Who do I look at? Ms. Fields?
JFK North is still a receiving facility for Baker Acts for children, but not an inpatient. If the determination is made that the child needs inpatient care, they are not a location for the inpatient care for those under the age of 12.
$141 million, and a friend close to me had her 13-year-old daughter have to travel to another county for a Baker Act residential. That's only 3 days that we keep people, children who are Baker Act. Can you work on that? Ms. Fields, are you head of this department, or who is head of this department?
This isn't a situation where there is a head of a department.
So let me
I
look
mean,
at
that is how-
everybody.
Well, no,
Who can tell me that we can have for children within 6 months with $141 million are a place for our kids to go for Baker Act?
Well, one of the things that is happening already is work with the central receiving facility that will be able to handle that when that is completed.
So you will be doing this, Ms. Davis?
That will be the solution once we get
At
this
your
built.
place?
Yes.
Good. And you and I talked about this a couple of months ago before he gave you the money. All right, very good. And then one other, Keith Oswald, you're amazing. You have been with the school board on these issues for many years. People don't realize how many years you've been involved in this. Can we help you for those children who do not have a home to go back to? How many are there in Palm Beach County, school children who do not have a home to live in?
So for homeless, we tend to identify roughly about 6,000 a year.
So 6,000 students this year. Can you come back to us in a couple of months when you report on these other things and tell us how we, as a county, are helping these homeless students?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you all. This was a lot of information. I know there's a lot more out there. We do appreciate you taking the time. And those of you that were in the audience to lend support, thank you very much. It is 12:32. I feel like the timekeeper today. Why don't we return at 1:30 to take up our next item on the workshop, which is the budget review. We'll see you all at 1:30.
I'd like to thank all of you for all the hard work. You did it in a very condensed manner, so thank you.
Welcome to Inside PBC, where we highlight what's going on inside Palm Beach County. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and everyone can participate in a scavenger hunt. There are missions to complete, points to earn, and the chance to win random prizes while exploring local resources. Everyone is encouraged to wear green on Thursday, May 15th, in solidarity for Get Your Green On. And swimming lessons for residents in the Glades